She wiped her face and went back to the dishes. When everything was tidied away, she returned to her room and cultivated, and this time she did not flinch from the memories. They were behind her now. Her spiritual power circulated at high speed, coming around stronger with every grand cycle. Having only recently broken into Chi Refining Layer 2, she found her power filling to the brim faster than expected, until it pressed hard against a bottleneck. The dark memories cracked apart like a mirror, light coming through the fractures, and then broke completely and left nothing but an enormous field of white. In the same instant, the bottleneck gave way. Chi Refining Layer 3, at 11 years old, after 1 year and 3 months of cultivation, when the new realm had settled, she went to the mirror. This time she stood up straight, an 11-year-old just starting to change shape, and swept back the long hair she usually hid behind. From the table, she picked up the blue-green hair tie with the sky blue stone, her birthday present last year, bought by her brother before they ever came to the Carefree sect. She tied everything back neatly and let her face show, with only a few strands loose across her chest. Then she wondered aloud whether it made her look more energetic, propping her chin on her hand with a small worried frown. Spirit Beast Peak is the shortest of the 4 peaks and by far the largest in territory. It holds grassy pasture and old-growth forest and swampland and lakes, and the whole peak is fitted with formations that regulate the seasons, since spirit beasts need varied environments. I walked toward the external affairs hall and passed disciples with their beasts, some enormous and imposing, some small enough to sit in a sleeve. Each peak runs its own such hall to handle contact with the outside world. Unlike the Merit Hall, this one permits spirit stone transactions and admits loose cultivators and disciples of other sects once they pass inspection. My goal was simple, to find something cute and lively among the stock and give it to Somi. I asked the attendant what sorts of spirit beasts they carried and what their temperaments were like. This hall trades in monster beasts, along with their eggs, their materials, and their feed. Only a monster beast that a human has tamed counts as a spirit beast, while every untamed one keeps the older name, which is purely a human distinction. The attendant asked what I would be paying with, and when I said contribution points, he told me to follow him. Spirit stones are accepted, but inside the sect, the good stock is quietly reserved for our own people. Paying in contribution points buys better quality and rarer creatures, and some beasts cannot be bought any other way. We fell into conversation, and that is how I learned my guide's name, Go Jamin. He asked whether I had a target in mind and what my budget was. I said something a girl would like, lively and clingy, with a generous budget, and he suggested a violet shadow cat, which is cute and extremely popular with female cultivators. We turned a corner into an exhibition hall, which reminded me instantly of a zoo from my old life. Disciples could walk through and inquire about anything that caught their eye. He gestured me toward the violet shadow cats, and I reached out and hit an invisible wall of air, which set me marveling again at the technology here. He assumed I feared being bitten and explained that a formation protects the enclosure. So I watched the 2 small cats, both covered in purple fur with black stripes. One lay along a branch with its tail swinging, thoroughly pleased with existence. The other trotted over and produced several extremely adorable meows, then rolled onto its back, wiped its face with a paw, and did everything in its power to look precious. These things are practically spirits. The problem was that I could not picture my sister with one, since I have never seen her interact with an animal, unless we are counting insects. So I asked Senior Brother Go whether there was anything else to look at. There were snow mastiffs entirely white and completely docile, which I ruled out for being roughly the size of a cabinet. There were red scale carp drifting through their tank, rumored to bring good fortune, which lost because we have no lake at home. Then came a colony of white jade silkworms on mulberry leaves, and I asked my guide in open disbelief whether female cultivators genuinely enjoy large fat worms, even white ones. He said in sales they are quite popular, then admitted the real appeal is the clothing made from their silk. Neither of us had anything to add after that. We walked a little further, and I stopped, because something in the next enclosure caught me. A group of crimson birds stood in pairs, most of them one large and one small, with tail feathers so long that the tail made up half of the whole bird. Peacocks I thought first, and then phoenixes, because every legend from my old life arrived at once. Some were flying, and some calling, and some grooming each other's feathers. One pair held my eye, a larger bird carrying an insect in its beak and offering it to the smaller one. The smaller one ate only half, then chirped a few times, and the larger one offered the rest back several times before finally swallowing it in one bite. Then the two drifted together, settled against each other, and started preening, for all the world like a devoted couple. Go Jamin told me they were little firebirds, first-order low-grade spirit beasts of the fire attribute, prized for those tail feathers and very popular with the public. There is a legend that they carry the bloodline of a sacred beast true spirit, the phoenix itself. Historical records, though, show the strongest ever found barely scraped the second order, level with a Foundation establishment cultivator. Then he added, with the timing of a man who has done this many times, that the pair I was staring at are siblings, hatched from a single egg. One male and one female. My surprise clearly satisfied him. If he was not mistaken, he said junior brother Kang had assumed they were a couple, since everyone thinks that the first time. I told him no, that I had initially taken them for father and son. He had nothing to say to that, and finally observed that junior brother Kang's thoughts were truly unfathomable. In fairness, I had not expected to answer that way either, and it only came out because his expression had been cheeky enough to deserve it. Watching him stand there speechless, my mouth curved on its own, and I told him I would take these too. He asked whether I wanted them already tamed, or whether I wanted the eggs and would hatch them myself. I know almost nothing about this, so I asked him to explain, and he did so patiently. A tamed beast can be raised straight away with no danger attached, but it will never be as close. Hatch one yourself and the bond runs far deeper, because a monster beast attaches itself to the first face it sees after birth. The catch is that hatching takes specialized knowledge, and it can fail outright or go wrong in any number of other ways. I turned it over and decided to hatch them myself, because Somi would far rather watch them be born. With the details settled in my head, I looked back at the two of them, the big one and the small one. The insect offered and half refused and finally swallowed. They drew together and preened each other, loving and warm, exactly like my sister and me. When Somi sees them behaving like that, she will remember that she has me, her older brother, and she will stop overthinking things. I carry the box home along the mountain road with both arms wrapped around it. What is inside cost me nearly 200 contribution points, and I am not about to drop it on a rock. Inside, resting on a bed of straw, is a little firebird egg, and the box itself carries a temperature-regulating formation that copies the warmth of a real nest. The set came with jade slips, an incubation manual, and a detailed explanation of the little firebird, along with hatchling feed and infant stage feed. Once the birds are grown, they will want spirit beast pills made specifically for spirit beasts. The whole bundle costs more than simply buying a bird somebody else already tamed. First order low-grade monster beast meat sells for 1 spirit stone a pound, and I cannot imagine these two ever weighing enough to justify the arithmetic. Somi is going to love it, so I walk faster. Back at my immortal cave, I set the cage down and call up toward the attic for her to come see what her brother brought home. She answers that she is coming. While her feet work their way across the boards above me, I lay everything out. The cage, the little nest, the large and small sacks of spirit pet feed. Then I open the box, and there it is. A fiery red egg, marked with faint colored patterns, exactly like the tail feathers of a grown little firebird. It really is beautiful. The footsteps come thumping down the stairs, and she asks why I bought an egg, whether I mean to make egg drop soup out of it. I turn to tell her it is a monster beast egg and freeze solid with my mouth open. I ask the beautiful lady in my house who she is. She tells me to stop it, that it is her, Somi, and demands to know whether I truly do not recognize her anymore. She pouts, then breaks into a grin and announces that since I have complimented her, she will let it go. It takes me a long moment to line the person in front of me up with the one in my memory, because in less than half a day she's become somebody else entirely. Her hair has been growing all year, slowly enough that I never registered it, until it hung across her face and hid her. Now she has tied the whole waist-length weight of it back, leaving 2 straight strands down in front, and her face is out in the open with her big eyes flickering bright. The clothes are the smaller change. It is the way she stands, chest out, chin level, when the old Somi carried herself like someone hoping the room would look at something else. She catches me staring and gets shy in a hurry, deciding the problem must be her outfit, ducking her head to inspect herself. She is wearing a short-sleeved skirt set, white sleeves over a blue base with a pink carved top, and she asks whether it is too bold, since it is finer than her usual. She brought a whole trunk of pretty mortal clothes with her when she came, and liked every one of them. Then she buried them at the bottom, because they drew eyes and she did not want eyes. Today she dug them out and ran a cleaning talisman over them until they looked new. I tell her there is nothing wrong at all, that if anything I like this Somi even better, and the new clothes look good on her, and I mean every word of it. Then I explain the egg, that I was afraid she would be bored alone in the house and thought a spirit pet would help. After that I tell her everything I saw and heard on the road. She hooks her chin into her hands and stares at the fiery red shell while I talk, and every funny thing I report gets me that crisp laugh of hers. She says she cannot believe there are monster beasts miraculous enough to come, 2 from 1 egg, brother and sister, exactly like us. I point out they might turn out to be older sister and younger brother instead. She says that is fine too, because either way the older one will protect the younger one. She is not wrong about that. She has never once been wrong about that. I tell her to stop staring a hole in the shell, since hatching is a long way off, and suggest we study the incubation steps first. The jade slip opens on a series of little firebird life scenes, beautifully composed and unbearably cute, and I inform her that apparently this world invented advertising too. After the sales pitch come the real contents, feeding cautions, basic habits, the symptoms of a sick bird. It reminds me all over again how advanced the tools here are, the same way the recording stone did. A jade slip and a recording stone will both hold images. A jade slip's images can be invented out of nothing by whoever makes it, while a recording stone can only capture what actually happened. You may edit a recording stone or wipe it, but you cannot make it lie. That is why I used one and not a jade slip when I documented the growth of the blood spirit rice. That footage was going in as proof. The manual says the next step is to drip our blood onto the shell. Somi asks whether that will make the hatchlings closer to us. Then hears the word blood and asks in a much smaller voice whether we have to cut our fingers. And how many times? I understand the feeling perfectly since blood draws at a physical were never my favorite part of my old life either. Fortunately, the cultivation world has a solution for everything. I tell her not to worry that the formula forces out a single drop on its own, with no cutting and no pain, and that she should watch. I hold my hand over the egg, recite the formula silently, and a bead of blood gathers at my fingertip and falls, and the shell drinks it in. She leans over my raised finger looking for the wound and finds nothing. She asks whether it hurt. She asks again, because I have gone somewhere else entirely. I come back and tell her no, it does not hurt, and that I will teach her the formula. She copies me and finishes today's feeding on her first try, and reports with some wonder that it really does not hurt. Then I stop, because standing this close while she channels her magic power, I felt the whole shape of it, and it has moved up a step. I ask when she broke through to Chi Refining Layer 3, since she only broke through 3 months ago. She laughs and says she is not entirely sure herself, that it happened after I left. Listening to her describe it, I let out a long breath and tell her what it was. An epiphany. That is the only word for it. Sometimes this world is exactly that metaphysical. One small shift in a person's state of mind can hand them an epiphany, a clean breakthrough, occasionally an outright ascension. It cuts the other way too, and there are people whose Tao heart shatters, whose entire life of work drains away, who end up ridden by a heart demon for the trouble. I rub her head and remind her I always said she was suited to cultivation, that an epiphany is not an opportunity handed to just anybody. She makes a pleased noise and lets me keep doing it, smiling like something in bloom. Meanwhile, I have my panel open, because a new skill has surfaced. It is the second one I have picked up since coming to the Carefree sect, after talisman drawing. This one is beast taming, sitting at beginner, 5%. Somi wants to know what we should name them. Before I can answer, she has already picked Little Phoenix and Little Flame, delivered with her eyes fixed on the egg. I ask whether she means to go straight to Phoenix, and whether that is not a crushing amount of pressure to put on 2 birds who have not been born yet. Then I remind her that the Phoenix bloodline is a legend, and only a legend. She keeps looking at me with the expression of a girl who fully intends her birds to become phoenixes. I agree, obviously. With my system behind them, who is to say they will not? The next thing I hear is my name, at volume, in the dark. Somi is shaking me and telling me to wake up, that it is time for the ritual, and I roll over and go back to sleep. She keeps at it. I finally open my eyes with real resentment in them and inform her that it is 4 in the morning and she has lost her mind. She twirls her fingers together and says in a voice thin as a mosquito that it is technically a new day. So should we not perform the feeding for Little Phoenix and Little Flame? What if we miss the window and something happens to them? I tell her monster beasts are not that delicate and our little ritual does not affect them in the slightest. Then I tell her I am going back to sleep, and that if she wakes me again, we are having egg drop soup today. Then I push her out the door and pull the covers over my head. Night owl or not, I still need my 3 hours, and I went to bed at 2 in the morning researching beast taming. What that research told me is that raising the skill will take a genuine beast taming legacy, plus more contracts and more spirit beasts actually raised. The scripture pavilion is worth a look. I get another hour and wake up sharp, wash, put on my exercise clothes, and open the door onto Somi standing outside looking pitiful. I surrender, tell her she wins, and we go feed the eggs first. She informs me that she likes Brother Ran the most. With yesterday's practice, the two of us are quick about it, and then she goes to make breakfast while I run my morning routine. The routine is only a warm-up now. After porridge, I work the spiritual field. After lunch, I take half an hour to digest, then blood spirit wine and an hour of exercise. The spicy blood spirit fried rice I keep as an occasional thing to reset my appetite, because I cannot eat too much of it without inconveniencing myself later. A cultivator's physique ought to shrug that off, except my chili peppers are rank 1 spirit plants, and ordinary peppers cannot cover the smell of blood anyway. With the body refining technique running, I burn through blood spirit rice much faster than I used to. Back in the mortal world, a low-grade serving took 2 full hours of exercise to work off. At 1 in the afternoon, I go to Peak Master Lim's Spirit Medicine Garden to tend spirit medicine, and come back for dinner. Evenings are for relaxing, reading biographies, talking with Somi, At 8, we each go to our rooms to meditate and cultivate. After 3 hours, the meridians start to sting, which is the body's way of announcing they have hit their limit and need rest. Higher spiritual root attributes and a stronger physique buy you more hours. After that, I go back to skills, or set goals, or draw talismans, or work alchemy, until 2 in the morning, and I am up again at 5. That is the whole loop, and it repeats. The joke of it is that I was never this disciplined before. In my old life, I was relaxed to the point of ending up in a factory tightening nuts for a living. Here, the price of relaxing is loss, and sometimes it is worse than loss. Environment changes people, as the old line goes. Although I suspect there is a second reason, and I open my panel to look at it. My name reads Kang Ran, Prodigy currently equipped, lifespan 12 of 99, comprehension ability 110, with a bonus of 20, spiritual rootwood at 30. My cultivation shows body refining 4th level at 42%, alongside chi refining layer 1 at 32%. The evergreen art sits at major achievement 48%, with mana quality listed as profound, and the mystic turtle force reads minor achievement at 56%. Under spell, I have the spirit nurturing art at major achievement. Appraisal is at max rank as always, with learning and teaching both at major achievement. Forming reads rank 1 minor achievement. Talisman drawing beginner. Pharmacy sits at minor achievement, beast taming at beginner, fishing at minor achievement, and cooking at major achievement, and cooking at major achievement, and cooking at major achievement. Watching that board shift, watching myself get measurably stronger week over week, is probably the real reason I keep going. Back when I'd played games, there were legends about people reaching level 40 in a single night, and some part of me never stopped wanting to be that person. I go over to Han Gomseon's place for another jar of blood spirit wine. Now that I have the recipe, I set aside half my blood spirit rice for brewing, and until my own cellar is finished, which should be within days, the stock lives in his immortal cave. Brewing did not trigger a skill of its own, interestingly. Instead, brewing appeared as a branch under cooking, which means it should inherit the cooking bonus. A few days back, the spirit nurturing art advanced to major achievement and picked up a 3rd branch. It now runs spell consumption reduced by half, growth speed up by 10%, and range up by 20%. Before that, the consumption cut was only a 5th, and the growth bonus only 5%. 2 months of steady work also pushed pharmacy to minor achievement, which came with a branch raising my success rate by 5%. At the fields, Peak Master Lim's answer has come back, and my proposal to expand the spiritual fields is approved, though the actual work will take a while to arrange. Blood Spirit Rice is going into the spiritual fields now, and I have kept 2 small plots as experimental ground for the seed I put through breeding. After harvesting the high-grade Blood Spirit Rice, I set a portion aside for exactly this, and this time 2 options come up. The first is Blood Spirit Rice at rank 2 low grade, requiring a rank 1 high-grade spiritual vein, with monster beast flesh able to shorten ripening, usable as a body refining resource. The second is Blood Spirit Rice at rank 1 top grade, every other condition identical, and the line that matters is that long-term consumption maintains vigorous blood and vital energy. No strange options this round, so I take both and split the spiritual seed into 2 portions. Top grade. I did not expect a top grade crop to show up at all. Grade normally speaks to strength or to who a thing is good for, and it usually runs high, mid, and low. Top grade is not handed out casually. It marks an effect so specific and so valuable that the item stops being priced by its rank at all. That is how a rank 1 spiritual item ends up worth more than an ordinary rank 2. Reaching toward rank 3. It is the label reserved for things that extend lifespan or carry a cultivator through a realm. Sitting with what that line actually says, I think this rice is about foundation establishment. After 60, the barrier to foundation establishment is the physical body, and underneath that, it is the decline of blood and vital energy. Rice that keeps blood and vital energy vigorous means a chi refining cultivator past 60, carrying the same body he had before 60. That puts it beside a foundation establishment pill in value. Plenty of cultivators are not unable to obtain a foundation establishment pill so much as unable to still be young enough when one finally arrives. Lim Jae-sung is the standing example, and without a spiritual physique he would have been one of them. Something like 70% of the cultivation world only meets the conditions for breakthrough after 60. If that effect ever gets out, even 10% of them succeeding would flood the world with new foundation establishment cultivators, and everyone who then advances past that, and there is only so much in the way of resources to go around. It would be a bloody storm, and I would be standing at the center of it holding the bag. So the top-grade Blood Spirit Rice stays mine, quietly, until I am strong enough to survive owning it. A month later, I am walking the spirit field with green rice seedlings already up around me, and 2 acres of spirit medicine coming along beautifully. 2 fiery red shapes come in from a distance, chirping, and land on my shoulders. Little Phoenix and Little Flame want to know whether it is dinner time. I thank them for the reminder and carry them toward the attic, where the food is already on the table. With my extra duties, I am busier every week, so Somi has taken over the cooking. After my coaching, her cooking is genuinely good. Han Gongseon's sincere assessment is that it is a quarter as good as mine. There are 1 or 2 small plates set out at the edge of the table for the little ones, and they are already eating. The 2 of us fed the egg our blood every day, and after 7 days it hatched, and the first faces the pair ever saw were ours. They decided on the spot that we were their parents, and started chirping at us, which as far as I could tell meant they were hungry. I brought out the diluted fire spirit milk, and had Somi be the one to serve it. She set the basin down, the 2 of them tasted it, and then they buried their heads and drank like the world was ending. Somi reached out to stroke them and stopped with her hand hanging in the air, afraid she might hurt something that small. One of them lifted its head on its own and pushed into her palm, wearing an expression of pure enjoyment, and that was the end of Somi as an independent person. She has looked after those birds like a jeweler ever since. The blood and the chant we used before hatching form what the Jade Slip calls the simplest version of an equal contract, and it has real advantages over the traditional slave contract. It brings the spirit beast closer to its master, which makes backlash rarer. It also leaves the beast more spiritual, more intelligent, better at understanding, and capable of genuine cooperation. A slave contract is closer to brainwashing, and beasts bound that way carry unstable minds and a list of associated problems, rage among them, an appetite for destruction. Some people want exactly that indiscriminate appetite, so they choose it on purpose. The equal contract has conditions, though. It requires the beast to be unhatched or very young, and monster beasts live long lives and gain strength appallingly slowly. That is the real drawback, because it produces no immediate combat power whatsoever. Most cultivators keeping spirit beasts want a tool, whether for fighting or for labor, and raising one from the shell to adulthood costs a fortune, and something like 100 years. The expense alone can bend a person's Tao path out of shape, so outside of large families and major powers with a specific need, almost everyone takes the slave contract. My goal was never combat power. I wanted spirit pets who would keep Somi company and make her happy, which is precisely why I bought eggs instead of a finished product. After dinner, I put in my body refining, note the small improvement with satisfaction, and go up the peak to the spirit medicine garden for my rounds. Senior brother Seo spots me and calls me over to try something fresh, and hands me a few small red dates. I thank him and promise to treat him to a meal when the chance comes. He waves it off and tells me he has already cast the spell over one section, so I should start from the next. I toss a date in my mouth, pocket the rest, and go cast Spirit Nurturing spell where I am supposed to. This is my special assignment, patrolling and casting, and it is easy work that doubles as practice, which is exactly why I took it. Also, senior brother Seo hands me spirit fruit every time we meet. That accounts for a very small portion of my reasoning. Truly a very small portion. What bothers me is that a year and a half in, not one spirit plant has ever triggered mutation. I cannot tell whether that is because my rank is too low, or because plants that have already entered a rank simply resist it. I would very much like to know what a mutated spirit plant even looks like. I finish my survey, find nothing else worth noting, and pick an open patch to practice spells. When the 20,000 contribution points landed, I went to the scripture pavilion and could not stop myself from exchanging for all 4 legacies, array, pill, tool, and talisman. Rank 1 only, since rank 2 is far out of reach and the Carefree sect is a foundation establishment power where rank 2 legacies are rare and priced accordingly. I also took the object guiding spell I have wanted for ages, which needs no spiritual root attribute at all and works for anyone with magic power. For my wood spiritual root, I chose the wood manipulation spell, which controls plants into attacks, bindings, and obstructions and is the standard first pick for wood cultivators. Object guiding spell reads, beginner at 15%, wood manipulation spell beginner at 11. Senior brother Seo tells me wood manipulation wants freedom, that I need to communicate with the plant instead of forcing its shape, which is thankless work. He says I should do it like this, and I stop to watch. He is a late-stage chi refining cultivator with a wood spiritual root, and he learned this spell long before I did. He is also the reason I picked it in the first place. In Seo Jobok's hands, the wood manipulation spell is a different technique entirely. He throws the spell seed and it never even reaches the ground before it erupts into vines, tough as cable. The spell seed is the core medium of the whole spell, a specially refined, absurdly fast-growing plant, and with wood attribute magic power poured in, it grows instantly into a weapon. Green light rolls off him in waves. Under his control, the vines snap like whips, and the wind of them cracks the ground, and then they pour onto a boulder, wrap it, tighten, and the rock splits and scatters. I applaud until he is visibly embarrassed. Seo Jobok is honest and plain and hard-working, and he likes taking care of people. After these weeks together, he has become, without either of us saying it, my second real friend in the Carefree sect. I throw my own spell seed, It goes into the ground, roots, and starts to grow, because as a beginner I cannot ripen it in midair the way he does, since my magic power will not stretch that far. Once it has drawn enough nourishment, it puts out branches, and only then can I attack with it. That whole process takes me a full 5 minutes against his instantaneous flowering. It is still far better than before, when I would burn most of my magic power straining at the thing and produce one small sprout. Then it clicks. The emphasis belongs on attacking, not on growing. The magic power I feed the spell seed is raw material, and given material it grows without any urging. If I imagine the spell seed as a person, it receives its master's magic power and stands ready for an order. Is it a whip? Is it a binding? Instead, the master keeps shouting at it to grow, grow, grow. The spell seed, already growing, has no idea what is being asked of it, so it does the only thing it can think of and pushes out one more tender little sprout in response. That was me for weeks. I have been screaming at a plant to do the one thing it was already doing. I start giving the grown vines actual commands and immediately discover I cannot balance the magic power against the instruction, because I have no idea how much output which order deserves. I release it in careful dribbles and the vines wobble drunkenly. I tell them to hold still and they freeze, and then one vine begins spreading and growing at a pace my grandmother could have beaten in a foot race. As I push more magic power through, it accelerates. Senior brother Seo calls out that the speed is good and I should start giving complex commands, and he sounds genuinely startled at how fast I have caught it. It took him over a month to reach this one step, 7 days of instruction from his own master and 7 beatings. Then he was turned loose to work it out alone and report back when he could grow a vine. He got there through daily repetition, and the tricks were all in the jade slip the whole time. They look simple written down. How the magic power circulates and how you meditate to communicate are things nobody can hand you. Sometimes the brain understands and the hands refuse. Very normal. I run the vine through turns, rises and falls, and lashes, and every motion comes out stiff as a machine imitating a dance. Senior brother Seo spots the problem immediately, because he was the same, and tells me to communicate with it and give it commands rather than dragging it around. His comprehension ability is not high, which made learning spells brutally slow for him and dropped him into every hole in the path. It also means that when it comes to understanding the wood manipulation spell, he may have surpassed the person who created it. A creator waves off certain pitfalls as obvious and never thinks about them again. He has personally fallen into all of them. The world is unfair and talent is not distributed evenly. Effort still gets paid. He spent 20 years on this single spell and wrote it into the finals of the Intersect competition. I adjust as he talks, trying things, trying to feel out what he means. Commands then, except not like that and not like that either. Then, suddenly, I have found it. The vine rears up and comes down hard on the ground, then grows wild and pours across the dirt like a snake toward a nearby stone, wraps it, and crushes it. I shout that it worked, and it is the first offensive spell of this entire life. Spirit nurturing spell does not count, since it was deliberately simplified by a great many powerful people so that anyone who is not actively foolish could learn it. Wood manipulation was never given that courtesy, because it is not a necessity. Senior brother Seo applauds, and when I look over he gives me a nod with real satisfaction in it. I thank him for the guidance and tell him honestly that without him I have no idea when I would have managed it. He tells me not to talk nonsense, that my comprehension ability is good, and that his master taught him the same way and he still took forever. He says I understand from a hint and my future achievements are beyond measuring. We compliment each other back and forth until the air is thick with it, and while the mood is good, I offer to treat him to a meal. Partly that is thanks for the teaching. Partly it is because Seo Jobok is sincere and genuinely willing to teach, and a person like that is worth keeping close. He finds the invitation too earnest to refuse and agrees to come by my immortal cave soon. Then I mention, offhand, that he should bring senior sister Lim along, since my little sister has not had a close female friend since she entered the sect. He tells me to leave it to him. No problem at all. I check the hour and head off to prepare, smiling on the road. In my head, I tell senior sister Lim that this is as much help as I can give her, and good luck with the rest. From everything I have watched, senior sister Lim has been carrying feelings for senior brother Seo for a long while. Unlike him, she is quick, and she will have seen straight through my little scheme. With me setting the table like this, getting her to find time for Somi should be no trouble at all. Very good. Very perfect. Tonight, I go all out and take their stomachs hostage. Look at the ledger. I repay senior brother Seo for the teaching, befriend 2 late-stage chi refining cultivators, and reach peak master Lim through them. I help senior brother Seo toward a partner, earn senior sister Lim's gratitude, and hand Somi the friend she has been missing for a year and a half. And I raise my cooking proficiency while I do it. I am winning enormously is what I am saying. I tell Somi when I get back and she lights up, because she has not spent time with another girl in 18 months. No matter how close the two of us are, There are things a girl is not going to bring to her brother. She dresses herself carefully, aiming for warm and neighborly rather than striking, then condenses clear water with her magic power and scrubs the pavilion top to bottom before coming into the kitchen to help. When the knock lands on time, I move to put down my work and get the door. She stops me, says she will do it and I should keep going, and walks over on light feet. I watch her go and think that she really has grown up. Then I turn back to the pot. The door opens on a handsome man and a beautiful woman. Seo Jobok has abandoned his usual clothes for a dark green short-sleeved fighting suit, and between the build and the square honest face he looks thoroughly heroic. Lim Baekun is in a pale blue wide-sleeved immortal dress, light makeup, her figure doing considerable work, landing somewhere between pure and dangerous. Somi peeks out first and looks at her with open envy, because senior sister Lim genuinely resembles a fairy who came down for the evening. Then she braces herself, takes small steps out into full view, and stands there with her hands clasped behind her back, secretly clenched, and asks whether they are senior brother Seo and senior sister Lim. Lim Baekun takes one look at the shy girl in front of her, and her eyes light up, and I can practically hear the maternal instinct arriving. Somewhere behind that gentle smile, she is thinking a daughter would not be so bad, and following that thought straight into a glare at the blockhead standing next to her. If he had been quicker on the uptake, their child would be about this size by now. She greets Somi warmly, confirms who they are, and asks whether this is junior brother Kang's little sister. Then she crouches slightly to meet her at eye level. That one small motion does more than any speech could, and I watch the distance between them collapse on the spot. No wonder senior sister Lim gets what she wants. She is smooth in a way you cannot teach. Somi tells her she is beautiful and that she matches senior brother Seo perfectly, which is her honest first impression and not strategy. Lim Bacon's smile goes doting and she tells Somi she is very cute and will certainly be a great beauty herself, one day. Privately, she notes that she did not spend all that time preparing this dress for nothing, since even a child can see it and one particular person still cannot. She turns to glare at Seo Jobok, who looks bewildered, scratches his head and grins foolishly. Then she offers the gift box she has been carrying, saying they do not know whether we will like it, and Somi freezes with her hands half up, unsure whether accepting is allowed. Lim Bacon reads that instantly and explains that it is a visiting courtesy and entirely proper, that the gift is not valuable, that it is only a small token, and should be taken without worry. She glances back over her shoulder, and Seo Jobok catches up and confirms, yes, not expensive, take it without worry. Then she winks at Somi, playful as a child, and Somi laughs and relaxes all the way. She thanks them, tells them to come in quickly, and announces that her brother has brought out his real skills tonight and will definitely surprise them. She is almost never this lively with strangers on a first meeting. Part of that is her not being untied. The rest is Lim Bacon's technique, which is frankly superb. They reach the pavilion and stop dead, because the warm modern decor is not what anyone expects inside a mountain. Senior sister Lim says it is beautiful and interesting in the same breath. Since deciding on this immortal cave, I have been steadily replanning the whole space, keeping the style simple and natural and the furniture in worn tones. Each piece is designed carefully enough that it comes out both clever and unlike anything else here. Night-glowing pearls sit in the ceiling with their light tunes soft and warm. Somi announces with enormous pride that she and her brother made all of it together, and asks whether he is not amazing. The dining table is loaded. Sweet and sour pork ribs, kung pao chicken, shredded potatoes, sauerkraut fish, every dish right in color and smell and taste. These two have seen the world and they have never seen a spread like this. Senior sister Lim leans over it and asks what these dishes are, because they smell incredible and look better. This world is a desert where food is concerned. People only think about flavor once they are reliably full, and the mortal realm here has not gotten there. As for capable cultivators, most of them barely eat, so who would research cooking? There are spirit chefs, technically, but nearly all of them work on processing monster beast meat and ingredients into dishes that advance cultivation. The point is the cultivation, never the taste. I come out carrying the big pot and set it dead center, where the most important dish belongs, and announce the last one. Buddha jumps over the wall, and that everything is ready. I tell them it is my newest experiment and I want feedback. Then everyone eats and talks, and the strangeness burns off fast. Food really is an indispensable weapon for making friends. My thanks, as always, to the master chefs of my previous life. Seo Jobok is straightforward and says so directly, and it is obvious the sweet and sour pork ribs have him. I explain the method in detail, the choice and preparation of materials, the quantity of each seasoning, the management of the heat, and he nods along with his eyes wide. Somebody at the table is taking it far more seriously than he is. I am speaking to him, and I am not speaking to him. Lim Bacon understands exactly what is happening and files every word away, thinking that if senior brother likes it this much, she will try making it at home. She also decides Kang Ran is a clever child and easy to work with. She wonders whether I liked her gift, decides it does not matter yet, and tells herself there is a long way to go and she will find a proper moment to discuss things later. Cultivators really are remarkable. She holds an entire second conversation in her own head and still retains my recipe word for word. Host and guests both enjoy the meal. Toward the end, senior brother Seo and I drink and talk cultivation, while senior sister Lim sits off to the side with Somi trading private things. By the time it is over, Somi has a friend. She calls her elder sister Lim every other sentence and it comes out sweet enough to hurt. When it is time to go, neither of them wants to. Somi asks her to come often, and senior sister Lim promises to come whenever she has time. She tells her to ask her brother if she does not believe it, then trades a look and a nod with me over Somi's head. Of the 4 people at that table, only Somi and Seo Jobak believed it was a dinner. For Lim Baekun and me it was a treaty, and both sides got their problem solved. On the way out, they switched to calling me Little Ran, which is its own kind of message, and thank me for the invitation, and senior sister Lim tells me I should like that gift. Somi walks them to the door and calls goodbye twice. Back in my room, I open the gift, and what is inside is a soybean person, or more precisely, a soybean person seed. In the box sits a round yellow bean the size of my fist, transparent, with a strange little figure visible inside it. I pick up the jade slip beside it and read carefully. It opens with a recording of Lim Bacon thanking junior brother Kang for the invitation and calling it a small token of gratitude that she hopes will help me. Then comes the introduction. The soybean person is a peculiar monster plant. Call it a monster beast and you must still plant it in soil and tend it like a spiritual plant for it to hatch. After hatching it never eats, and the spirit beast pills that work on monster beasts do nothing for it, while the spiritual liquid and spiritual soil used on spiritual plants become its food. Call it a spiritual plant and it has flesh and blood, intelligence, the ability to move like a monster beast, and even simple language. I have read about these in storybooks. The legend says soybean people were the medium immortals used for scattering beans to form soldiers, except those heavenly soldiers were vastly more powerful than what hatches today. Another version says the modern ones are the descendants of heavenly soldiers abandoned in this world. What actually comes out now is medium-grade tier 1 at best, with no innate divine ability, no strong physical body, no teeth or claws worth the name, and absolutely no combat power. Their one real trait is reproduction speed, since one seed grows into 10 or 20. Their lives are short, 1 to 2 years, and when they die they become new seeds and begin again, so within 5 years you can raise an army of them. For cultivators chasing strength they have no practical value, and the cost of keeping them is low. What they can do is work. Soybean people are simple and pure, imitate well, and obey their master's instructions without exception, which makes them excellent farm help. I recognize this one instantly because I have already seen them in the spirit medicine garden. Presumably, I asked senior brother Seo about them at some point and he mentioned it to senior sister Lim. He is where I first learned about them. And after digging through what records I could find, I got badly interested in scattering beans to form soldiers. Soybean people were discovered 1,000 years ago when somebody obtained a seed by accident and then somehow raised it. Comparing it against the legends confirmed their origin, but the actual hatching methods and cultivation methods stayed unknown, which attracted a great deal of research from powerful people. There were results. Everyone eventually quit anyway, for the simple reason that it was not worth it. Peak Master Lim was interested in his younger years and worked out a simplified cultivation method that dropped the cost enormously. The price of that discount was that his version has no combat ability at all, which is why they end up in the spirit medicine garden doing chores. Which is exactly what I want. The busyness is close to breaking me. If something could take the simple tasks off my hands, the cleaning, the basic farm work, passing tools and washing vegetables while I cook, the dishes afterward, that would change my week. None of those individually takes much time, and Somi does some of it. Added together, they run about an hour a day. Saving that hour is 365 hours a year, and I can think of a great many uses for 365 hours. By rights, the Waterwood Immortal Cave should already be staffed, either with hired servants or outer sect disciples brought into work, since that is what most inner sect disciples do. I do not want outsiders in my home. I am not used to it, and people are unpredictable. Somi does not like strangers either, and it would leave her uncomfortable in her own house. Soybean people solve all of it, and the place will be livelier for it. I set the gift aside, cultivate work through the legacy, and when the hour comes I fall hard asleep. I almost never dream. Tonight, I dream. Everyone lives together in the Waterwood Immortal Cave, working from sunrise to sunset, living simply, except better, because the tedious half of it is handled by small cheerful soybean people. A soft wind moves the branches, and spiritfish break the surface of the lake. Little Phoenix and Little Flame sit in the shore trees watching them closely, discussing which one to eat today. In the pavilion at the center of the lake, Mother Kang and Somi and I sit out of the heat with flour cakes and pastries on the stone table. Out on the water, Father Kang and Second Uncle drift in a small boat, and both of them land a spirit fish, and second uncle's is visibly larger and he is unbearable about it. Kang-gi and Moonju are married, and Moonju is far along and her mother will not let her lift anything. How wonderful, I say, somewhere inside it. It is 8 in the morning and I have overslept, which never happens. Somi looks in through the door with worry on her face. Breakfast finished, her apron still on. I am fast asleep, and scattered around me are talisman papers, brushes, and jade slips in complete disorder. She tidies the whole room until it is new again, sets the gift box with its round transparent sphere and its cute little yellow figure on the table, and comes to stand by the bed. My expression is soft and smiling, apparently like a child's. She decides I must be having a beautiful dream, and it makes her chest ache. She smooths my messy hair back and thinks that her brother truly has not rested in a very long time. In her memory, I have always been strong and cheerful and careful with everyone in the family except myself, always the one out in front, in the mortal realm and in the carefree sect alike. I turn over, still smiling, and mutter that it is wonderful. She goes quiet, then tells me softly that it is so good to have me, and that today I should just rest. She pulls the quilt up over me, walks out without a sound, and closes the door gently behind her. I sleep until midday. I open my eyes to a haze, dress, wash, and pull the curtains, and the sunlight is bright enough that my hand comes up on instinct. I observe that the sun is dazzling today. Then I look at where it is sitting and understand that it is at minimum noon, and the morning is gone, and my morning is gone as with it, which is an enormous loss. Also lunch, also the spiritual field. I put myself together at speed and get out of the room. The kitchen has Somi in an apron, cooking. Han Gong-seon sits bolt upright at the table with chopsticks in one hand and a soup spoon in the other, staring into the pot she is holding. He only turns his head when she glances over and makes a sound. Brother Han asks whether little Ran is awake and how I feel, and whether I do not feel very refreshed. I have no idea why he is in my house, and I briefly consider that the dream is still going. I manage a good morning and ask whether it is really already noon, then ask Somi why she did not wake me, since I have wasted so much of the day. I am not blaming her and I hope it lands that way. Han Gong-seon takes the question himself, because he does not want her distracted at the stove. He says Somi saw me sleeping soundly and chose not to call me, then asks whether I have gone a long time without rest. He answers his own question by saying this will not do, that people wear out, cultivators included. I sit down at the table and nod, because he is right, and tell him I know, but time does not wait, and in this world having no strength is a miserable condition. The reason my schedule is packed to the seams is that I do not feel safe. In the mortal realm it was manageable, since the people I met were not much stronger than me and there were laws. Later, the blood spirit rice gave me power ordinary people did not have, which left even less to fear. The carefree sect changed all of that. Nearly everyone here is stronger than me. The cultivation world has its unwritten rules, but those rules exist at the pleasure of the strong, who keep them because they need people to work and to take risks for them. Maintaining a decent environment is how you attract crops worth harvesting. Where the benefit is large enough, pulling the whole field up by the roots has never been off the table. The biographies say so and the histories say so. So I do not give up any hour that could make me stronger. I cannot afford to. Han Gong-seon says I see things very clearly. Then he says there is also a saying about combining work with rest, and that haste makes waste, and that I have certainly seen those words in the legacies. Those are the accumulated experience of seniors, he says. He tells me to try it after I eat, and promises there should be a surprise in it. I nod along, understanding roughly half. Somi calls that dinner is ready and comes out with the dishes, and once everything is down, we eat. I prefer talking while I eat, because it makes the table livelier and the food better. Enjoying good food should be relaxed and comfortable and happy, and a silent table feels oppressive to me. My old life had a rule about not speaking while eating or sleeping, and I brought the opposite habit with me instead. It spread through the Kang family, and now it has infected my neighbor. Brother Han mentions that he has already inspected and handled my spiritual field, so I can rest easy and do what I need to. I thank him and he tells me to thank Somi instead, since she is the one who came to find him. He adds that Somi has changed a great deal in just a few days, and her cultivation has broken through, and that something good must have happened, and he looks openly curious. I smile and do not answer, because it is her private business, and it is not mine to hand out. Somi thinks nothing of it, and tells him straight out. He says so it was an epiphany, and that in that case he must congratulate her on such a great opportunity. She gets embarrassed and says it was only a small realm breakthrough, and hardly some incredible opportunity. He laughs and says the benefits of an epiphany are not finished, that this was only the appetizer. That gets both of our attention. He explains that cultivators must cultivate the mind as well as the body. At core formation, a weak mental state invites a heart demon to surface during cultivation. Breaking through to an ascent soul and becoming an ascent soul true lord with a long lifespan means surviving the heart demon tribulation. And across history, countless geniuses and heroes have died on that step. An epiphany is pursued because its arrival signals that a knot inside the cultivator has come undone, or that their mental state has grown. That is the part that matters. Taking Somi as the example, her odds of surviving the heart demon tribulation years from now just went up substantially. The two of us listen closely, because none of this is in any storybook and I had no idea. I tell him he knows an enormous amount, and he waves it off and says it is nothing, only a good legacy. He clearly does not want to say more, so I let it go, because everyone has their own secrets, and I am hardly the exception. After the meal, I take his advice, drink the blood spirit wine, and start the day's body tempering. The warmth spreads through me and I begin the mystic turtle force. And almost at once, something is off. There is a sense of unfamiliarity in movements I have made thousands of times, and that unfamiliarity is exactly what cracks it open. It deepens my understanding of the technique and shows me small errors I have been carrying for a long time. The way stepping outside a circle lets you see the shape of the circle. My movements slow. I close my eyes while exercising, adjusting a posture here, taking another swallow of wine there. The sound around me drains away and my perception goes clear, until the world holds nothing but a person working through the mystic turtle force. In my mind, I have become a mystic turtle standing motionless on a reef. The waves break over it, the wind drives at it, and time washes across it. Its movements stay slow and unhurried and utterly certain. The insight comes in a flood. The mystic turtle force has to be slow. You experience the turtle, you understand the turtle. You become the turtle, and only then can you break through the turtle. Outside, my body sinks to it. One movement takes a very long time, and between movements I simply stand, the way a real mystic turtle would. Han Gong-seon watches from the side and says that it is incredible, truly incredible, that the two of us siblings are incredible. Somi asks what is happening to her brother, and he tells her little Ran is having an epiphany. She makes a startled sound, because we were just discussing epiphanies and now her own brother is having one, which does make them seem rather common. He says he is surprised too that a few days ago the sister had an epiphany and today the brother has one. Then he asks whether the two of us are not the heavenly Tao's biological children. Somi answers earnestly that no, we have parents, and they are still in the mortal realm. That answer makes him laugh. Then he tells her to watch carefully and comprehend well, because witnessing someone else comprehend the Tao in person is its own rare opportunity. Time passes and my movements almost stop entirely, while the trembling in my muscles keeps climbing. A layer of black mud starts working its way out onto my skin. Han Gong-seon judges the level left in my wine pot and tells Somi that the blood spirit wine will not be enough, because her brother is about to break through a realm. He says he will go back to his immortal cave for more. Then he blurs and is gone. Somi watches me with real worry, because threads of blood have started seeping from my pores. He comes back carrying several large vats, the entire stock from his cave, sees her face and tells her not to worry, that this is waste blood and impurities coming out. He has traveled and he knows what he is looking at, which she does not. I change posture, drain the pot, and throw it at him without opening my eyes. In an epiphany, the body and the mind run ahead of thought and simply make the correct choice. He catches it, waves the seal on a vat open, draws the wine across with a flick of his finger, and throws the full pot back. And I catch it clean. That is how it goes for a long while, my aura climbing, the wine going down. I become a figure of blood and black mud and the smell is genuinely terrible. Then my brows pull together. Somi has not looked away once and she catches it instantly, asking whether something is wrong with her brother. Han Gong-seon says the blood spirit wine is not enough to carry me through. She asks what we do. He says give him enough resources, takes a bottle of medicinal pills from his storage pouch and throws it over. She says his name, uncertain. He tells her they are medium-grade body tempering pills, that she should consider them his practice works. But the potency and everything else meets standard and she should not worry. She protests that they are too valuable. He says they are not particularly valuable pills, that a breakthrough takes priority, and besides he has freeloaded a great many meals here, and ought to show some appreciation. She thanks him on my behalf, and he nods at her and the whole explanation was for both of us. I take the porcelain bottle, pull the stopper, and pour the entire contents into my mouth. The potency takes hold and my aura climbs and keeps climbing, and when it condenses to its peak I let out a roar. The mud across my whole body bursts and goes to ash and disperses on the air, leaving a clean, sturdy torso underneath with the lines all in balance. Somi announces that she will go get clothes for her brother and bolts for the pavilion. I consolidate, open my eyes, and breathe out a mouthful of turbid chi, then raise a hand and close it into a fist. The panel comes up with my name, Kang Ran, and the title line reading Prodigy, currently equipped. Lifespan shows 12 of 104, comprehension ability 110, with a bonus of 20, and spiritual root wood at 30. Cultivation Body Refining 5th layer at 0% alongside Chi Refining layer 1 at 34%. Evergreen Art at Major Achievement 52%, Magical Power Quality Profound. And the Mystic Turtle Force now reads Major Achievement, with a new branch listing Mystic Turtle Protection and Body Protection Defense +1. The Body Refining and the Mystic Turtle Force broke through together. I tried the new branch immediately, and when I activate Mystic Turtle Protection, a transparent pale blue shield closes over me from head to foot. I look at Han Gongsun, hoping he will take a swing at it, and he says understood, and tells me to be careful. He draws a flying sword, waves a finger, and the sword becomes a line of light coming at me very fast. It hits the shield with a hard metallic ring and sparks come off it, and after a brief stalemate it bounces away. He increases the force. He does it several more times with the same result, until he has the defensive value roughly calculated. He tells me the shield's defense is outstanding now, and that his medium-grade magical artifact can no longer hurt me. I thank him and say honestly that without his medicinal pills, the breakthrough would not have gone so smoothly. Then ask what the pills are worth so I can transfer payment. He thinks about it and says they are his own practice works, that he had been planning to sell them cheap anyway, so he will let me have them at cost. 50 contribution points. He has known me a year, and he knows I will not be at ease unless there is a number attached. I am about to say something else when Somi comes tearing back with the clothes, shouting at us to stop fighting. I tell her nobody was fighting. She arrives at our side out of breath, gets out that she only went to fetch clothes, and demands to know how the two of us started brawling in the interval. I take the clothes, put them on, and use a cleaning talisman and a body cleansing talisman to make myself fit for company. Meanwhile, I explain that I asked Brother Han to test the Mystic Turtle Protection after the breakthrough. Han Gongsun confirms it, says my strength has already passed his, and that even at full power he cannot scratch me, and he admits it generously and turns it straight into praise. Somi decides on the spot that this calls for a large feast tonight and tells Brother Han he is joining us. He says in that case he has something to look forward to. I check the hour, realize the spirit medicine garden is waiting, apologize and go. At the garden I finish my work and then practice the wood manipulation spell with Seo Jobok until we stop to rest. Lim Bacon comes over and asks whether I was satisfied with her gift. I tell her I like it very much and thank her. She says if I have any questions to ask her, since every soybean person in this garden was hatched by her. I take that opening and start asking for instruction, because knowledge out of a book is no match for a person who has already succeeded standing in front of you. I had meant to plant the seed this morning, then I overslept, and then the breakthrough ate the afternoon, so I decide it goes in after dinner. In the evening, the three of us have our feast and Han Gongsun goes home thoroughly satisfied. Then I take the seed out to the spirit field, pick a corner, plant it, cast, water it, and follow the special procedure to the letter. By the time it is finished, night has come down properly, the stars are out and the moon is high. I wonder how mother and father are doing. With the Waterwood Immortal Cave settled, I can finally bring everyone here. My plan is to travel with the group during the next spiritual root assessment ceremony and ride along with them, because at my cultivation the journey is too far and too dangerous to make alone. Peak Master Lim and I have already discussed it. I hope the reunion comes soon. A few days later, I am working the spirit fields with particular care, and the silver moonflowers most of all. Around one of them, I had Somi set up a small rank 1 chi gathering formation with a dozen-odd spirit stones scattered around it, purely as insurance. The readout says twin silver moonflower at 15%, 2 flowers to a stem, requiring a rank 1 high-grade spiritual vein and moonlight essence. After more than a year, the first mutated spirit plant has finally arrived. The ordinary silver moonflower only needs a rank 1 spiritual vein, and the spiritual energy concentration inside the Waterwood Immortal Cave does reach rank 1 high-grade. The spirit fields themselves have been cultivated for under 20 years though, and have only reached medium grade. Thankfully, I can lay a chi gathering formation over the gap. I would still like to know when Peak Master Lim's promised construction team intends to appear. The answer on expanding the spirit fields and renovating the Immortal Cave has come back, and word is that a formation elder will lead the team personally. He is the highest formation cultivation in the Carefree sect, a rank 1 high-grade formation master. If he ever reaches foundation establishment and pushes his formation work to rank 2, the sect will likely gain a formation peak and one more peak master out of it. As things stand, apart from alchemy, spirit plants and spirit beasts, which have reached rank 2 legacy, most of what the Carefree sect holds is rank 1. Even the rank 1 high-grade formation legacy was developed by this one elder working alone. His cultivation is only chi refining and his standing still sits level with the peak masters. I do not have the connections to summon a man like that. Peak Master Lim does. I finish and turn back toward dinner, and the Immortal Cave token at my waist starts flashing, which means a visitor. My first guess is Big Brother Han coming to freeload again. I get to the entrance, open the door and stop short because outside is a crowd of enormous men led by a refined middle-aged one. I ask carefully whether there is something I can help them with. Nobody would be bold enough to bring a crew to block a door inside the sect, I tell myself, and I have been well behaved lately and have not provoked anyone. The man introduces himself as Ku-Su, sent by Peak Master Lim to renovate the immortal cave. The construction team I have been longing for is standing in my doorway, and I nearly turn them away. I greet him properly as Elder Ku-Su, say that this disciple has been waiting a long time, and swing the door wide to bring everyone in. Then I ask whether they have come a long way, and whether they have eaten, and offer to feed them first. The big men trade looks, because after all their years of cultivating, this is the first time anybody has invited them to a meal. Offering food is the highest courtesy in the cultivation world, and there is a reason for it. Anyone hosting a meal has to put out high-grade monster beast meat, spirit vegetables, spirit wine, and the rest, which is a serious pile of spirit stones. Cultivators cannot eat much mortal food, since it carries impurities that are difficult to expel and will obstruct cultivation. Most outer sect disciples of the carefree sect live on grain fasting pills 3 times a day, which are filling and convenient. Everyone gets a quota as a welfare benefit that does not count against the annual resource distribution. You have to feed the horse if you want the horse to run. Inner sect disciples eat better, ranked monster beast meat and spirit rice. But when you host, mortal ingredients amount to poisoning your guest, and grain fasting pills would be humiliating. It has to be a ranked spirit meal. I know the rule. What I understood only after the rice offering business is the old line about wealth, companions, spells, and land. Companions means fellow disciples and masters and relatives, which is to say, it means knowing how to behave with people. When I first entered the sect, I would have practiced self-improvement in poverty and left it there. Now that I am modestly comfortable, the connections get managed properly, and Peak Master Lim is the proof. Otherwise, how does a first-year disciple end up with an elder leading a crew to renovate his cave? Elder Ku-Su tells the big men to rest where they are. He does not know my background, sees how young I am, assumes I do not grasp what I have just offered, and is quietly giving me an exit. I take Somi's arrival as my cue and tell her to fetch the dozens of pounds of monster beast meat from the warehouse, along with the spirit wine and some seasonings from the kitchen. We have a lot of people today, and we are having a barbecue. She chirps that she is on it and scurries off, no longer shy, not remotely intimidated by a yard full of strangers. Her voice is also not small, which means everybody present hears the inventory, Elder Ku-Su included. Every man in that yard sits up. He was serious. They took the right job, and nobody is slacking on this one. That is roughly the shape of the thinking, along with a great deal of anticipation, and from 1 or 2 of them, visible drooling. Elder Ku-Su nods and says nothing more, while recalling that this is the person Peak Master Lim specifically instructed him to help, and wondering whether I might be a newly accepted disciple of his. I bring out tables and chairs I made myself in spare hours, most of them carrying the sturdy attribute, so nobody has to worry about breaking one. The odder attributes were either destroyed or put in storage. The men settle in 2s and 3s and start relaxing into conversation. Somi comes back and unloads item after item from her storage pouch, including the barbecue grill, which I built because this world does not have one. I tell everyone not to be shy, to drink as much as they want, and that the spirit wine strengthens the body, and warn them the meat will take a little time. They drink heartily and go warm and comfortable, and every one of them is surprised by the effect. I do not mention that it is blood spirit wine, and let the subject slide past. This batch was practice work brewed from rank 1 low-grade materials, weak in effect, and I could not bring myself to pour it out. Clearing inventory and buying goodwill in one motion, I set up the grill with a fire control formation Somi carved into the base, drop in a few spirit stones, light it, take her skewers and start cooking. The construction team watches the entire process and gets loud about it. Faces flushed. Work has not even begun, and lighting the fire alone consumes several spirit stones. These men break their backs for roughly a dozen spirit stones a month, and have to save for several months to afford 1 bottle of chi gathering pills. That is the outer sect disciple's life, and the spirit measuring ceremony on the day you enter decides it for nearly everyone. Very few ever break out. The first batch comes off and I flip and season and add the soul of the thing, then divide it out so every table gets a portion and every man gets a skewer. Several of them bite in immediately, and the meat is tender and running with juice, and the layered seasoning goes off in their heads, and they blurt out that it is delicious. Their colleagues who have not gotten any yet look over skeptically, because it is a meat skewer and surely this is theater. What these men normally eat is what this world offers, and for 100 reasons gourmet cooking never had room to develop here. You could not call any of it delicious. You could call it filling. So the doubters take a bite, and the scene repeats itself exactly. Before long everyone has finished, and they are all staring at the skewer still in my hand, and there is a steady sound of swallowing. I smile to myself, then ask how it was, and whether my craftsmanship is not bad, and mentioned that even senior brother Seo Jobok and senior sister Lim Bacon praised it endlessly. I say it casually, and I say it on purpose. Elder Kusu picks it up at once and remarks that he had not expected junior nephew Kang to have dealings with Peak Master Lim's esteemed disciples. I confirm that senior sister Lim and my little sister are close, and she visits often, that I currently work in Peak Master Lim's immortal cave helping tend spirit medicine. Senior brother Seo is a very good person, I add, who even taught me the wood manipulation spell. My hands keep moving over the grill while I talk, and I fill in some interesting things from the spirit medicine garden. Everyone listens closely since these are people they will never get near. Elder Kusu says junior nephew Seo's wood manipulation spell is indeed rare, and that he made his name with it, taking second place in the Intersect Grand Competition. I am dropping these names to give my sudden display of wealth a backer and an explanation. They also happen to be true. Until today, none of it mattered. Starting today, with the Immortal Cave renovated, I stopped being a transparent person on Spirit Plant Peak and in the carefree sect generally. A few people already knew I existed on account of the low-grade prodigy business. Going from a brand new disciple to a man buying and renovating an Immortal Cave is a large enough jump to attract curiosity and prying, so a powerful name gets hung over the door to discourage it. Elder Kusu plays along beautifully, and the conversation does the work for me and lifts my standing while it goes. By the end of it, I read, "To that yard full of strong men, as somebody with a serious background who is nonetheless approachable, which makes them feel good and slightly wary at once. They take the project very seriously. If I notice them, if I invite them to work here, their lives improve enormously, and they know it." More skewers keep coming off the grill, and the whole yard gets loud and warm, and somewhere in there I pull Elder Kusu aside to go through the renovation plan. First is a rank 1 high-grade formation, meant to trap intruders and block spiritual sense from prying. Ever since my conversation with Peak Master Lim, learning that the old man occasionally takes a peek has left me cold. What if Somi or I were bathing, or otherwise indisposed? So the formation goes up specifically to shut that down, and I was not remotely subtle about it when I raised it with Lim Jizong. He said he understood, which is exactly why Elder Kusu was sent. Trapping intruders is standard in private immortal caves anyway, to stop unauthorized entry. That is inside the sect. Outside, cave formations are killing formations, and anyone who trespasses dies. Second is the spirit field expansion, which is what this whole crew came for. Digging soil, guiding veins, filling soil, drawing water, laying formations, and then several years of waiting while the spirit soil transforms. There is a way to accelerate it, and it costs money. There is a monster beast called the soil-nurturing spirit earthworm, which is an excellent farming helper. It devours spirit plant roots in the soil and excretes spirit soil, and repeating that cycle speeds up the nurturing of a field and indirectly lifts its rank. The ceiling depends on how strong the earthworms are. Conveniently, there are some in the spirit medicine garden, so I only need to ask Peak Master Lim for a few. The catch used to be that soil-nurturing spirit earthworms exist only to raise a field's rank, since ordinary land grows nothing, which means buying spirit plant roots separately to feed them. Here is the coincidence. Mid and low-grade blood spirit rice does not require spirit fields at all. That came from Peak Master Lim, who has lately started planting blood spirit rice in the sect-owned fields, and the two of us trade notes constantly to see what else the crop can do. He is experienced enough to have caught the characteristic that I dismissed. I had filed it as a spirit plant you could grow in the mortal world and thought it merely acceptable, since I personally have no further use for mid and low-grade blood spirit rice. It turns out that for a sect or any large power, spirit fields are enormously important. Pairing the rice with soil-nurturing spirit earthworms to accelerate the nurturing does not only save a share of the expense, it produces a harvest while it does it. Losses turned into profit, compounding year after year, becomes a fortune. Before my 3-year assessment even arrives, I have been issued a Rank 2 exchange token, which grants the right to trade for Rank 2 spirit items through a special channel, which means I am now simply waiting on a Foundation Establishment pill. With enough contribution points, I could obtain the Foundation Establishment spirit item other people dream about, and possibly reach Foundation Establishment in one clean push. That would make me a cultivator with 200 years of lifespan and a name worth something in the immortal realm. The third item is mine, and it is to dig a lake out of the barren ground. The Waterwood Immortal Cave sits in a remote spot, but the grounds are large. Past the spirit fields, there is a wide stretch of wasteland the previous owner never wanted to pay to convert, so it simply sat. I had a beautiful dream a while ago and came out of it wondering why that land should not be a lake. It would make the place lovelier and it could hold spirit fish, or chickens and ducks. Besides, what kind of Waterwood Immortal Cave has no water in it? Elder Kusu and I finished the plan and started signing work, and the whole crowd of big men understands their piece and thumps their chests and guarantees they will make it beautiful. Then the month-long renovation begins. A month later, the Waterwood Immortal Cave is not the same place. The wall has been rebuilt and doubles as part of the formation base. Coming in through the main gate, a path of stone steps runs straight to the pavilion built against the mountain. To the left are rockeries and greenery with transplanted flowers and grasses, and the ginkgo trees and the small pavilion beneath them are the most striking thing there. To the right, the path leads toward the spirit fields. A little ahead there is a fork that goes down to Water Spirit Lake, which is the name the two of us settled on together. We named the fields as well, and they are the Wood Spirit Garden. The Wood Spirit Garden now carries a rank 1 high-grade cloud rain spirit gathering formation, a composite that both gathers energy and releases spirit rain. Only 10 acres are under cultivation, and only 3 of those genuinely qualify as spirit fields. But the layout leaves room to reach 30 acres in time. Along the path down to the garden there are lush Cheongryong wood trees, rank 1 spirit wood, adaptable, common everywhere, evergreen by nature. Weeping willows line Water Spirit Lake, and those are not spirit plants at all. I simply think willows look right beside water, so I had some brought up from the mortal world. There is a small island in the lake with a pavilion on it, reachable by a wooden bridge, and a small stream running off toward the Wood Spirit Garden. There is nothing living in the lake yet, which leaves it a little short on vitality. That can wait. Somi says it is beautiful and asks whether this is our new home. We are standing on the pavilion balcony, and after the renovation, that balcony takes in the whole of the Waterwood Immortal Cave at once. I tell her yes, and that when the time comes I will travel to Cheonsu City with the spirit testing team and bring everyone here. She says she misses everyone very much too. To celebrate the project coming in finished, we throw another barbecue and everyone eats until their mouths shine with grease. One of them tells me my craftsmanship is superb and says it is genuinely sad to think there will be no more of it after today. Another says that if I ever have work again I should look for him, since he is cheap and willing to work hard. The rest pile on behind him. Over the past month I have gotten familiar with every man in this crew, and what surprises them is that an inner sect disciple would be approachable at all, never mind one who can cook. They compete to toast me. Every one of them is older than I am, and in the cultivation world strength is what gets respected, so as outer sect disciples they call me senior brother anyway. I smile and answer each of them in turn. Then Elder Kusu comes over and suggests we go talk somewhere quieter, tipping his head toward the pavilion, and I agree without hesitation. We take a few skewers over and settle in, and the grill gets handed off to Somi. I have a fairly good idea what this is about. He finishes a skewer, sets it down, and says he wants to take Somi as his disciple. I tell him that if Uncle Ku wants her as his disciple, of course I am willing. We started calling him Uncle Ku once things got comfortable, and it has closed the distance considerably. All month Somi has been working alongside him, asking him about formations, and he has been generous about giving face. Over time, the two of them simply became familiar. What Kusu likes about her is the innocence and the liveliness, because it is the exact opposite of his own daughter. She also satisfies an expectation he once had and never got, the understanding, considerate child who actually listens. So he dotes on her, answers every question she brings, and occasionally bends the work schedule so she can practice on real formations. Her formation work has improved dramatically. He has been driven to exclaim outright that Somi is a formation genius. She is not only diligent, her aptitude is genuinely excellent, and she can infer 3 things from one, and sometimes proposes ideas nobody handed her. Some of those ideas have given Kusu real insights of his own. Now, sitting in the pavilion, he runs back through the whole month and tells me her aptitude is very good, and that she will achieve great things. Her personality is good too, he says, willing to endure hardship and work hard. Then he adds that rumors truly are not to be trusted. I catch on that word immediately and ask whether it is convenient to tell me what the rumor was. He says the word going around was that Somi's heart nature was poor and she would not go far, and that in a sentence, taking her as a disciple would not be cost-effective. Otherwise, he points out, with a high-grade spiritual root like hers, she would have been claimed by some peak master long ago. It would never have come around to him. There it is. That explains everything. Between the rumors, Somi hurt herself and everything I have turned up since. One long confusion finally resolves. Look at Zhou Yoguang, who drew a high-grade fire spiritual root at the spiritual root measuring ceremony, and was fought over by every party present. The moment he joined the Flame sect, he was escorted to the spiritual root measuring elder personally. That is what a high-grade spiritual root is worth, and how badly the sects want one. Somi should have received the same treatment. Instead, she arrived at the carefree sect, was ordinary, and nobody came for her. Her performance during the measurement got carried back, and the peak masters and elders decided that investing in her would be throwing resources away. 2 years in the sect, with a peak master's ear and his disciples for friends, I have learned a few things about how this world works. The carefree sect's hands-off approach is standard across the cultivation world, and only aptitude outstanding enough to catch an eye ever earns a place at somebody's side. There are only a handful of reasons an advanced cultivator takes a disciple at all. One is that their lifespan is running out and they cannot bear to let their craft die with them. Another is that they know their own Tao path is finished, and they hope a disciple will climb higher and reach back down. The cultivation world is full of that story, disciples stumbling into fortune, becoming the sense soul immortal masters, then turning around and carrying their master through a realm. Those are the good versions. There are also masters who raise a disciple specifically as a future body to occupy. Either way, what they care about is aptitude, which is only another way of asking whether this person can reach a higher realm. Spiritual root is the obvious measure, visible at a glance. The hidden ones are comprehension ability and heart nature. Somi's timidity that day told them her heart nature was weak, and for those people that single impression was enough to cancel out everything else. High-grade spiritual roots are rare, but 1 or 2 surface every decade or so, and there will always be another candidate. Resources are not infinite, so the logic runs toward quality over quantity, because raising one core formation immortal master makes the whole road easier. They simply do not understand enough. My Somi had a knot in her heart nature and was shy, and she has already untied it. I say as much, then add that the peak masters may hold higher cultivation, but whether they can teach is a separate question with no guaranteed answer. Uncle Ku, on the other hand, is different, and I have watched Somi's progress for a month, so I can state plainly that he is a good teacher. He waves both hands and says he is flattered. His reasons for wanting her are not purely about cherishing talent, and I know it. Across this month, he has watched Peak Master Lim's senior disciples come by to visit and eat several times over. He is the carefree sect's foremost formation master, spoken of as standing level with a peak master. Yet a chi refining cultivator is not a foundation establishment cultivator, so that equality has a ceiling on it. On the strength of his contributions, the sect has set aside foundation establishment's spiritual objects for him. Foundation establishment is not a certainty though, and if he fails, the sect will not fund a second attempt, which could mean he never breaks through at all. So he thinks about what comes after him. Taking a disciple is one part of that. And what if this disciple turns out to be his second chance? A disciple with connections is worth more than a commoner with none, and the character and conduct of the two of us have been on display all month. We are worth investing in. That is the arithmetic, and I do not resent it in the slightest. He tells me he is the lucky one here. I tell him I have no objections and will ask Somi for her opinion, and if she has none, we will bring the apprenticeship gift over. He says he will sweep the mat in welcome, and we trade smiles and go back to the food. In the evening, after the last of them has gone, the immortal cave that has been loud for a month drops into silence. A gentle wind comes through and willow catkins drift across the water. The two of us sit in the pavilion at the center of the lake and take the rare quiet for what it is. I ask Somi what she thinks about becoming a disciple, and she says she is fine with it, that Uncle Ku has taught her a great deal. Then it is settled, and I will go ask Senior Sister Lim how to prepare the gift. That preparation eats the next several days, and I do go to Senior Sister Lim. She opens by telling me that he is the one begging to take a disciple rather than us begging for a place, so the gift is a formality. I point out that he and Somi get along well, and he has already taught her a great deal, so how could we be perfunctory about it? Then I ask whether there is anything more suitable that would show real sincerity. She thinks for a moment, then walks me to a small pond with a dozen odd lotus flowers floating on it. She forms a hand seal, calls one lotus over, takes a seed from it, and settles the seed into a jade box. She tells me it is a bitter heart lotus seed, that consuming it makes the heart bitter and the mind clear, and drives off heart demons, and that its meaning is diligent education. Then she adds that Elder Ku has been taking on tasks constantly lately to prepare for foundation establishment. This seed can be refined into a bitter heart medicinal pill, so he will not have to fear heart demon interference when he makes his attempt. I put the box into my storage pouch, hear the rest of that sentence, and pull it straight back out to return it. That is a foundation establishment spiritual item. It is far too precious. She says it is fine, that the seed is only one ingredient and carries that effect only once refined into a pill, so it is not that precious. Then she says the real reason he wants Somi is partly that he values our good relationship with them, and that since Somi is practically her junior sister now, she needs to show something too. I scratch my head, because everyone involved knows all of this perfectly well, and hearing it laid out in the open is a slightly unpleasant experience. I tell her she sees things clearly, which is exactly what I expect of her. She says that is simply how the world is, that the first step of any connection is usually somebody wanting something. Then she says, the part that matters is whether real feeling grows during the association, because that is what decides whether a friendship lasts. This junior brother has learned a great deal. She takes me to the vegetable garden next and cuts a bunch of celery, telling me celery means diligent study and pairs perfectly with the lotus seed. 2 things are enough, she says, and anything more would be inappropriate. I take the celery and thank her for the trouble. She says it is no problem, then asks how I made that glutinous rice cake, because he seems to really like sweets, and she would like to learn it. No problem at all. A few days later, Somi and I step off the public transport bird at the foot of the main peak and stand there staring up at it. The spiritual energy out here is already at the second tier, which is what the main peak means. The ordinary stretches of Spirit Plant Peak run around first tier medium grade, and down at the base of the mountain, where the outer sect disciples live, it is first tier low grade. We follow the address toward Elder Kusu's immortal cave. There are few people on the road, and the ones we pass are all in a hurry. It takes us a while to find the place. When we do, we activate the knocking formation, which notifies the owner that somebody is at the door and works out to be a doorbell with extra steps. Someone comes to open it, and it is a bright-eyed girl about Somi's age with her hair in 2 buns, who asks who we are looking for. She is not shy in the least. She holds the door half open and scans the pair of us from top to bottom. I greet her as little junior sister and explain we are here to acknowledge a master. She says we must be the senior brother Kang Ran and junior sister Somi the old man has been talking about, and I confirm it with a slight delay. So this is Elder Ku's daughter, and she calls him the old man. This one is not simple. Somi greets her quickly, openly curious about a girl her own age, and when the girl glances over Somi, offers a friendly smile. The girl does not appreciate it. She makes a small dismissive noise and runs off, leaving the two of us looking at each other. Then her entirely unreserved voice comes echoing back through the house, announcing to the old man that his precious disciple has arrived, and he should come out and greet her. I tell Somi that once we are inside, she should stay away from that one. Before she can answer, Kusu walks out in the same green scholarly robe, smiling gently, and comes to meet us. He apologizes and explains that he was refining a formation plate, so he let his little girl answer the door, and that she is rather. Then he stalls out entirely, unable to find a word that is both accurate and polite. I supply lively. He seizes it gratefully, says yes, lively, then promises the child is good at heart and only sharp with her words. She is like this solely with family, he adds, and very polite to outsiders. Somi is an outsider today. In about 10 minutes she will not be. Watching his explanation get worse with every sentence, I redirect and suggest we get on with the apprenticeship. He agrees, gestures the way, and says everything is ready and that is requested nobody outside has been invited, so it is family only. Witnessed among ourselves. He had originally wanted a celebration, and the two of us dislike elaborate ceremonies and prefer things simple, so we declined. He leads us into an ordinary small courtyard, exquisitely done and far smaller than the Waterwood Immortal Cave. He laughs that his place cannot compare with our big one, since land on the main peak is scarce where the spiritual energy is densest, which makes the main peak a first-tier city and my Waterwood Immortal Cave the countryside. I can live with that trade. In the main hall there are 4 people waiting. 2 elderly, his parents, both cultivators at early stage chi refining, a beautiful woman who must be his wife, and the wild girl from the door, now sitting perfectly still and quiet, so composed that without the last 5 minutes we would have taken her for a mild child. The apprenticeship formally begins, and under everyone's witness, Somi becomes his disciple and presents the carefully chosen gift. Letting senior sister Lim choose really was the correct decision. Somi offers the celery first, meaning she will study diligently, and everyone present sees spiritual vegetables and reads the thought behind them approvingly. Then the jade box is opened in front of Kusu, and he cannot hold his composure. He sets down the tea of respect Somi has just handed him, and reaches for the box quickly, joy plain on his face. Then he takes one glance, closes it, sets it aside, and steps forward to help Somi up. The ceremony completes. Somi is officially his disciple. I watch that whole sequence and nod to myself, because his handling of it satisfies me. If he had gotten absorbed in examining the bitter heart lotus seed and left my sister kneeling, I would have had to seriously reconsider whether he was the right man. We stay for lunch afterward, and when the meal is done he finds me and says the gift was thoughtful and exactly what he needed. Then he says he will not waste words on empty things, and that he will pass on everything he has learned in his life to Somi. He calls it his promise. I meet his eyes, nod, and bow. In that case, thank you, Uncle Ku. A month goes past in a blink, and the blood spirit rice is ready to come in. Standing in front of those golden red stalks, I am nearly vibrating. I pull out the sickle I made specifically for this, which reads durability 35 of 35, trait sword chi in blue. Making furniture turned up all sorts of traits, most of them gray, occasionally white. What I had originally been hunting for was Windblade, which releases a crescent-shaped area attack with the power of a low-grade rank 1 Windblade talisman. A Windblade sickle would have made harvesting quick. It did show up once, on a drawer. That drawer could only be opened with magical power, and the instant it opened, a Windblade came out of my face. If I had not been at middle stage body refining at the time, I would have been cut open. The drawer is still in the warehouse. I had not decided what it did to deserve existing. After dozens of sickles, Windblade never reappeared, but a blue trait did. Sword Chi releases a metal attribute slash, and its range is enormous, considerably farther than the gray Windblade ever managed. I tested it, was satisfied, destroyed and recycled every other piece of scrap, and kept this one. Today I am counting on my little sickle. I feed magical power in. Some traits are fixed or passive and simply work by existing, while others need power pushed into them, and Sword Chi is the second kind. Blue patterns along the blade start flickering. The tip begins to glow, and Sword Chi gathers along the edge with a fine sound of it rubbing against the air. I swing, and a semicircle of Sword Chi about 5 meters across flies out, and whole swathes of rice go down and sail off to the far end of the field ridge before dissipating. I practiced this diligently before ever using it near the crop, because slicing my own spirit field plants would be a genuine disaster. This really is much easier. Next comes the object guiding spell, which I have practiced a great deal but not for long enough to show real improvement. Sitting at beginner. For harvesting it is fine, only slow, and every load I move pushes the skill along, so I take the slowness as payment. I work until evening before the harvest is finished. Then, exactly the way Han Gong-son did it, I lay the balloon flower root and the other spent plants across the spirit field and burn them. In the cultivation world, the 5 elements generate and overcome one another, and fire generates earth. My previous life told me plant ash makes good fertilizer, so both sets of knowledge point the same direction. Today, I do not need to go to the spirit medicine garden. After my silver moon flowers started to mutate, I asked Peak Master Lim for leave, and now I go 2 or 3 times a week and allocate the rest of my time myself. I sort the harvest and stack it into the warehouse. Over 260 pounds of high-grade rank 1 blood spirit rice, 20 pounds each of peak grade rank 1 and low grade rank 2. I set aside a portion of the peak grade and the low grade rank 2, planning to try breeding on them tonight. After dinner, I take them back to my room and try, and neither of them can be bred at all. My rank is not high enough. I may have to wait for farming to reach rank 2. The harvest did push farming up at least. The panel now reads farming at rank 1 major achievement, with branch abilities mutation, harvest plus 20%, breeding and growth speed plus 20%. The breakthrough took the harvest bonus from 10 to 20. Every future harvest gets bigger, which I will absolutely take. Once things are settled, I cultivate. 3+ hours of chi refining every night is not negotiable. What has changed is that I used to grind immortal cultivation skills straight afterward. Since Han Gong-son's reminder, I understand the value of balancing work against rest. So now I take a break every other day, and today happens to be one. I finish meditating at 10 and go to bed on schedule. Sleep until 6, a full 8 hours, and wake up feeling genuinely restored. Morning exercise, breakfast. Then Somi and I split for the day since she goes to Elder Kusu to study formations until evening. I work my own affairs and eat lunch alone, occasionally dragging Han Gong-son into it. I finish in the spirit field right around dinner and am heading back to cook when the bell goes and somebody is at the door. Outside are men in groups of 3 and 5, all in light green robes marked with black bamboo shadows, which are inner sect disciple robes woven with the cloud-clear bamboo pattern. The story is that properly cultivated the bamboo grows as high as the clouds, so the name carries lightness and elegance, and the robes are supposed to borrow that. One of them laughs that it has been a long time, that he calculated on his fingers today that junior brother Kang would be resting, so he brought his brothers over for a meal. Then he hands over the gift. Another one presents black pig tenderloin, slaughtered an hour ago and very fresh, and someone else tells him to look at himself. So capable. A third produces jade ancient sea fish that he pulled strings to have shipped in from the nearby sea. He hears it is extremely delicious, he says, and only wonders whether I know how to prepare it. Somebody answers that on my behalf, insisting my cooking is superb, better than their family's own spirit chef. I open the door and get buried in ingredients. I thank them, tell them to come in, and mention I was about to cook anyway, and one of them says that means they arrived at exactly the right time. The group makes its way to the center of the lake with the ease of people who have done it many times, and I go into the kitchen there and start. The news of my being backed by Peak Master Lim, combined with a renovation that size, drew attention I could not have avoided. Some of them wanted to dig up my secrets, and some genuinely wanted to make friends, and the month since has been relentless. Fortunately, I had the spirit medicine garden as a standing excuse, which discouraged the ones who came for a show, and a few gave up on their own. The persistent ones stayed. After a round or two of filtering, what settled out is a small group inside the carefree sect, and it is these men. A month of company says their character is decent, we do each other small favors, and we trade cultivation insights. Then they tasted my cooking and could not stop, and now they come here to gather and bring ingredients when they do. They always pick the pavilion at the center of the lake for the view, and since gatherings mean food and the attic is too far, I added a kitchen beside it. They sprawl out over Water Spirit Lake and talk about nothing in particular. Somebody congratulates senior brother Waijo on his top 10 finish in the grand competition. Waijo says junior brother Lee did not do badly either, since he reached the top 16 this time and would certainly have made the top 10 if he had not drawn Du Hui. The other two say both of them did far better than the rest, who barely held on to their immortal caves. I come out with the fish and explain that I have never cooked jade ancient sea fish before, so I went with the simplest approach, steaming, and tell them to taste it. The table falls dead silent and every chopstick in the pavilion levels at the plate. What follows is a fight. Nobody yields an inch. Chopsticks clash against chopsticks, and some attacks come in at genuinely tricky angles and get intercepted anyway, and two of them form a temporary alliance to combine the weak against the strong. Then Waijo's eyes flash. His chopsticks come in from an impossible line, and he takes the first piece before anyone else has finished reacting. I applaud out loud and call it exactly what you would expect from a top 10 intersect disciple. That is the understanding at this table. There's always a contest, and whoever takes the first piece gets to enjoy it first. Waijo says it is delicious and pulls everyone's attention over. I smile all the way through it, because watching people eat my food and look happy about it gives me a sense of accomplishment nothing else quite matches. The other four swallow silently and watch him enjoy it with open envy. Li Shinui curses under his breath that he tried so hard and still could not beat Waijo, and asks himself what all that effort was for. Li Shinui is the top 16 finisher who was trading compliments with Waijo a minute ago. Before he joined this small group, his ranking was outside the top 100. The other two were on the verge of losing their immortal cave allocations. Now, of the 5 of them, every single one except Waijo has improved substantially. So the food contest is not entirely a game. Strip out magical power, and what is left is reaction speed, spotting the opening, and committing without hesitating. I tell everyone to eat before it goes cold, and take the first piece myself to break the seal. Then judge it as decent with tender meat and suggest boiled fish slices next time. Once I have spoken, they stop holding back, and before long the whole table is full and satisfied. Afterward, I brew a pot of clear fragrance tea. It is one word off Clear Heart tea, which I have drunk at Peak Master Lim's place, and the two are nothing alike. This pot has no special effect at all, only ordinary first-grade medium-grade leaves with a clean aroma that cuts grease and settles the stomach. It comes from Seo Shin, whose family runs a spiritual tea houses, so tea is his standing gift whenever he visits. Once I learned what it did, I started bringing it out after meals, and by now it is simply what happens. Everyone drinks, talks, looks at the water, and is thoroughly content. Then Waijo changes the subject and asks whether I have a grudge with the O family of Hyunseom. I ask why he says that. He says O Gisu has been investigating my information over on the main peak. I ask him to elaborate, and he says of course. And as he lays it out, the shape of it becomes clear. The O family is a cultivation family with a great many disciples carrying spiritual roots. Their strongest is old ancestor O, at great perfection of chi refining, who is unfortunately past 60 and cannot break through to foundation establishment. Several of their disciples join a carefree sect, and one of them is O Jisoo. He has excellent aptitude and a high-grade golden spiritual root, and is now a core disciple cultivating on the main peak. The others are scattered across the various peaks, and one of them has a conflict with me. That would be O Chobong, who has been making trouble for a while now. I say so out loud, and Waijo nods and agrees the reasoning holds, then says that if it is only O Chobong it does not matter. Somebody else adds that O Chobong is considered the weakest of the O family's current generation, so if it really is him, Brother Kang has nothing to worry about. I nod along, and the conversation moves elsewhere. In the afternoon they eat and drink their fill and take their leave, and I see them out and go back to my body tempering. Getting that news at a dinner is its own kind of reminder, and it does not escape me. So I am starting to attract the attention of certain people. Good to know while it is still cheap to know. Fortunately, my foundation inside the Carefree sect is solid now, and my network is well managed. This small group alone contains men with deep family backing and men with extraordinary talent, which widens my information channels considerably, and that is one of the reasons I maintain it. Shared interests and genuinely liking their company are the other reasons, and they are not smaller ones. My own strength at middle stage chi refining is respectable. For late stage chi refining, I have senior brother Seo and senior sister Lim. If that is not enough, Somi's master is Elder Kusu, a formation elder at the 9th layer of chi refining. For foundation establishment, there is Peak Master Lim standing behind me. From what he has said, the Carefree sect's old ancestor, Immortal Master Carefree, who sits at Foundation Establishment Great Perfection, supports him as well. So long as I do nothing harmful to the sect, there should be no problem. I am about as secure as a person can be here, which is why the news moves me not at all, and I keep strengthening myself at my own pace and let everything else come as it comes. Out in the outer sect, down among the spiritual fields, the talk is running. Somebody has heard that the low-grade prodigy has gotten in with Peak Master Lim, Somebody else reports that he brought in Elder Ku to renovate his immortal cave, and the result is beautiful enough to pass for an immortal realm. A third says scornfully that of course his comprehension ability was good, so Peak Master Lim saw he learned quickly and recruited him to work. A fourth calls that nonsense and announces he became Peak Master Lim's son-in-law. A fifth calls that nonsense in turn and insists on absolutely reliable inside information that he is Peak Master Lim's illegitimate son. The hissing that follows travels down the entire field ridge. More people drift over until the outer sect steward arrives and the crowd thins out. One of them finishes his work and heads up the mountain, reaches an immortal cave, triggers a formation, waits, and is led inside. A guide takes him through to a pond where Oh Chobong is feeding fish. Oh Chobong asks without turning around whether he found out clearly. The man reports that opinions vary and there is genuinely no more news. Oh Chobong makes a disgusted sound and asks what luck a country bumpkin like Kang Ran could possibly have stumbled into, to be favored by Peak Master Lim and befriended by his disciples. Seeing his superior troubled, the man wants to perform, and his mind starts working overtime. He suggests kidnapping the mortal parents, and then, he is talking with real enthusiasm and does not notice Oh Chobong turning around. Before he finishes the sentence, the murderous look on Oh Chobong's face stops it in his throat. He gets out half a word. Oh Chobong ignores him entirely and tells a subordinate nearby to take him out, and that he does not need to come back. The man is dragged through the immortal cave by two large men, shouting about the injustice of it and struggling the whole way. Merely having the thought is enough. Keeping a man like that around leads to endless trouble. Calamity does not extend to mortals. That is a rule of the cultivation world, and it exists for an obvious reason. Most cultivators come out of the mortal world, and in the course of clawing forward they inevitably make enemies. If enemies could reach their mortal relatives and friends, the world would come apart. So the powerful figures of this realm established the rule, and at first it was only unwritten, which meant people violated it in secret. And back when the demonic path ran rampant, it happened often. Then a certain Ascent Soul Immortal Master enshrined the rule into the Tao of this realm itself. It became a heavenly Tao rule, and anyone who touches it bears enormous karma, is plagued by heart demons, and is consumed by karma fire. The story goes that before he rose to power, he lived through exactly that kind of loss, and swore an oath to end it, and everything after followed from the oath. There are other secret rules established the same way. They are not obvious, and with time everyone except the long-standing legacy sects forgets them. Once the mortal world stopped remembering, cultivators born out of the mortal world had almost no chance of learning them. Which is why the man who was just congratulating himself on a clever idea had in fact proposed something blocked long before he was born. Even core formation immortal masters will not touch it, never mind a small O family. There is also a quiet agreement between sects to keep these things locked inside their own legacy and never explain them to outsiders. So the loose cultivators with no legacy behind them never learn any of it, and a great many geniuses fall into the trap and never get up again. Which is exactly why so few loose cultivators in this realm ever amount to anything. Oh Chobong watches the man dragged off without any expression at all. He concludes that trying to cultivate his own influence out of the vast outer sect is ultimately sifting for gold in a pile of filth. The fact that the man did not even know the rule tells him the man's heart was never in cultivation. His achievements would have been limited, and he can only return to secular life. To arrive at a method like that, he decides the man's perspective was simply too narrow. The irony is that learning these secrets after joining the carefree sect is easy. Visit the scripture pavilion, read the cultivation biographies. Those texts mention such things constantly in passing, and the sect even keeps a book called Key Points for Cultivation, which records the secrets meticulously and wraps them in historical stories. It reads easily, the stories carry you along, and you absorb the hidden truths without noticing you are learning. Any disciple can borrow it at any time with no prerequisite whatsoever. That is the carefree sect. It governs through non-action, hands its disciples the right to choose, and hands them the consequences to match. Oh Chobong is in the middle of concluding that coming to Spirit Plant Peak was a mistake when a request for an audience arrives at the door. He calls the man in, and it is someone in a light green shirt, plainly an intersect disciple, who greets him as young Master Jisu asked him to deliver a letter. Then, the moment Oh Chobong has the letter, he bows and leaves without waiting for permission, as though staying another second would cost him something. Oh Chobong's face darkens, because being disregarded that openly is not a small thing, and he is also a young master of the O family. In his reading, the subordinate's disdain and Ojisu's instruction are the same insult, and both belong to Ojisu. He tells himself not to let an opportunity go by. It takes him a while to get his temper back under control before he unfolds the crumpled paper and reads. Then he snaps for someone to bring young Jisu. The man his subordinate brings in is thin, his clothes disheveled, his hair greasy, and there is a strange smell about him. The subordinate frowns hard and keeps his distance. Oh, Chobong shows no disgust at all. He helps the man gently into a chair and pours him tea personally, then asks Jisoo to look at the letter and tell him whether it carries a deeper meaning. Jisoo takes it casually, reads it, and hands it back, saying there is no deeper meaning and all of it is true. Oh, Chobong asks whether that means he should apologize to Kang Ran as the letter suggests. The letter came from Jisoo after a thorough investigation, and its purpose is to persuade the family junior brother who asked for that investigation to drop the grudge and apologize. Chobong could live with most of it. The sentence he cannot live with is the one telling him that Kang Ran is not someone he can afford to offend. As a disciple of a family riddled with internal knives, he needs to know whether that line hides a second meaning, which is why he called for his advisor. He met Myung Jisoo by chance outside a brothel, where the man could not pay and had been cornered at the entrance by the madam and her people. He was entirely composed about it, arguing his way through every one of them on the strength of his tongue alone. He worked hard, he said. His back is wrecked, the girl was lying there perfectly comfortable, and now he is supposed to pay, when it is a miracle he is not charging her. That performance caught Chobong's interest enough that he stopped to watch, and the result of the watching was that the man got beaten nearly to death. Chobong pulled him out of it, and the man has worked for him since. The reason Chobong can gather outer sect disciples on Spirit Plant Peak, and the reason they speak so highly of him, is almost entirely this man's strategy. Myung Jisoo has no spiritual root and is not a cultivator at all, and an inner sect disciple is permitted a few attendants as long as he registers them. He has been thinking since he finished reading, and he has his answer ready by the time he is asked. He says that at this stage there is no suitable way to deal with Kang Ran. Too many people stand behind him, and the immortal cave has already been bought, so offending all of them over a piece of land is not worth it. Chobong nods and says he understands, and that it is a pity about that immortal cave, which would have been a good place to develop. Then he says that for him, Chobong to apologize is something nobody should even be able to imagine. The next day, Chobong arrives at my immortal cave, dressed immaculately, with a young attendant in tow. A true man knows when to bend and when to hold. He releases a wisp of magical power, lets the formation notify the owner, takes a deep breath, arranges a smile, and waits. I open the door, see who it is, and frown on reflex. Then I take in the smile and the gift box in the attendant's hands, and raise an eyebrow instead. I ask whether this is not young Master O, and what strange wind blew him here, and add that this humble place of ours could hardly accommodate a great deity like him. He does not get angry. He hands over the gift with a smile and says, "Junior brother Kang is joking, that he heard about the housewarming and brought a gift to congratulate me. After all, we are fellow disciples both under Peak Master Lim," he says, "so this much courtesy is necessary." Astonishing. A while ago he could not wait to see me gone, and now we are fellow disciples. These family disciples have skin like armor plate. I keep that entirely inside, put on a professional smile and accept the gift. I thank young Master O for his kindness and for troubling himself to come in person, then offer, in words, to have him in for tea. One does not strike a smiling face. The adult world is exactly this complicated. He declines, says he still has things to do, and takes his leave. On the road back he stops smiling. He notes to himself that I invited him in for tea and never once stepped aside or gestured him through the door, which is perfectly true. I said the words and did not move an inch, and both of us know what that means. He also notes that my accepting the gift means I will not pursue the earlier matter, which is also true. I carry the box back to the pavilion, where Han Gongson has been waiting outside the kitchen for a while, and he asks who that was. I tell him Chobong came to apologize, set the box aside, and head in to make lunch. Somi has gone to study, so I had planned on something simple, and then this glutton turned up to freeload. He asks whether I forgave him. I ask what else there was to do, since it was a verbal dispute to begin with, and inquire whether I am supposed to slip out tonight and assassinate the man. Setting aside whether I could even manage it, throwing my entire future away over something that small would be idiotic. Carefree sect rules forbid disciples harming one another, and getting caught is a serious crime whose lightest sentence is cultivation abolished and expulsion from the sect. He asks whether I am really not going to make trouble for him, since the man used to follow me around like a burr and was insufferable about it. I would have to be out of my mind. Instead of burning time hunting him, I would rather spend it building connections and improving myself. That is the only thing I have done in the 2 years since I arrived, and look at the result, because the man came to me and apologized. Han Gongso nods along, then asks what happens if he starts in again. Then I will make his life a living hell. I say it and open the gift box on the same breath. 500 spirit stones and 3 bottles of chi gathering pills. Han Gongson looks over my shoulder and observes that as apology gifts go, it is not bad. Time keeps moving and the year is nearly out, and in a few days I turn 13. Standing in front of the thick green spirit fields, I find myself doing arithmetic. It has been 2 years since I came to the Carefree sect, and 2 years since I last saw snow, and I miss it a little. What I actually miss is the winter days when everybody crowded around a hot pot together. Decided. Hot pot today. I will call Senior Brother Han and Senior Brother Seo to make it lively. The flowing glow grass in those 3 acres has already matured and yielded 36 portions, bonus included. After it, I planted steadfast grass, and between the spirit nurturing art and farming, the maturity time drops noticeably, since my total growth speed bonus now runs 25%. Spirit medicine that used to take a year now takes 9 months. That sounds minor until you notice the 3 months saved fit an entire batch of high-grade blood spirit rice, which raises the harvest indirectly and levels farming faster at the same time. The silver moonflower is thriving and should be ready in about another year, and the twin silver moonflower, sitting at 58%, should finish transforming before the ordinary harvest comes in. I keep walking the ridges. 7 newly reclaimed plots are in the middle of turning into spirit fields. 6 months have passed since the renovation, and in that time, 3 batches of low-grade blood spirit rice have gone through along with 1 batch of medium grade. The second medium grade batch is in the ground now. Appraisal has intelligently started displaying the conversion progress, presumably because a field turning into a spirit field is farming's business. First order low-grade spirit field, 88%. Another at 89, another at 84. The plots differ, which is normal, since the speed depends on how hard the soil-nurturing spirit earthworms are working. The blood spirit rice roots turn out to be a gift. Those little fellows love them. Every day they are either eating or on their way to eat, and what comes out the other end is spirit soil. Farther along, I reach the soybean people. Inside their small fence, the seeds have grown taller than I am and still resemble small trees, still climbing, with leaves the size of wash basins. Palm-sized green pods hang underneath, 2 or 3 times the size of anything in the mortal world. They are still nowhere near ready. The readout says soybean person unripe at 57%. Strength first order middle stage, owner Kang Ran. Looking over this wood spirit garden slowly taking shape, which cannot come close to Peak Master Lim's 100 acres, I still feel enormously satisfied with it. From here on out, I am counting on all of you for production. I take out the Immortal Cave token, chant the incantation, and push spiritual power through, and the Cloud Rain Spirit Gathering formation over the Wood Spirit Garden activates immediately. The token works like a remote control, and different incantations drive different formations across the whole cave, which is extremely convenient. About 3 stories up, spirit rain clouds gather, and a large-scale spirit rain begins to come down, drawing its energy from the spiritual vein beneath the Immortal Cave. With the formation, this is easy. Without it, casting spirit rain by hand over 10 acres would drain half my spiritual power on its own. A person simply cannot compete with a formation on efficiency. One of the requirements for cultivating a spirit field is continuous irrigation with spirit rain and spirit springs, once a day without fail. With that done, my farming work for the day is complete. It also happens to be mealtime, so I follow the small stream all the way down to the pavilion in the lake to eat there. Since the water is called Water Spirit Lake, I decide the pavilion is the Dragon Scale Pavilion. Water does not need to be deep, so long as there is a dragon in it. I take a fishing rod out of the small kitchen and cast into Water Spirit Lake without looking, then think about what I want. Crucian carp soup with tofu sounds right. The rod moves the instant the thought finishes, and I lift it to find 2 lively Crucian carp hooked. The fry came from Spirit Beast Peak, where they started as ordinary mortal fish. Generation after generation raised under the mountain's spiritual energy turned them into spirit fish, barely qualifying as first order low grade. They never even got a proper name and are just casually called Spirit Crucian Carp. I bought fry and raised them here and renamed them Water Spirit Crucian Carp, which sounds considerably better. A side dish would be good. Salt and pepper shrimp. Crispy, exactly right. I cast again, and the float at the end of the line opens into a small net and spreads across the surface. I wait, then lift, and it comes up heavy and full of water spirit shrimp, who share the carp's fate and were also named by me. I release an allure spell, pick out 20 large plump ones, and put the rest back. Building this lake was the right call. Free fish and free shrimp, endlessly. Back in the mortal world, I assumed fishing would never be worth anything. This time it shines. As for 100 fragrance rice and the other old holdings, there is nowhere to plant them yet, and they will have to wait until the spirit fields finish converting. Fishing reads minor achievement with the branch ability Never Empty-Handed, which is intelligent in a slightly unnerving way, since whatever I want appears as long as it exists in the lake. I carry everything to the kitchen and start cooking, and before long the smell gets out. Little Phoenix and Little Flame come in from a distance and land on the windowsill, staring hard at the thick white fish soup and chirping without pause as the steam rolls over them. I tell them not to rush, that it will be ready soon. Their readout says, 1 year old, 9 months, strength first order early stage. owners Kang Ran and Hyo Somi. I point a finger and float a spoonful of soup up to my mouth to check the salt, adjust it, and decide it is ready to serve. The two of them are past waiting. They are still young and they are very smart. They know perfectly well that once their master says it is ready, they get to eat. So the chirping is purely to remind me not to forget them. I know. I have never once forgotten them. I split a crucian carp down the middle and put half into each of their dishes with equal soup, because fairness is not negotiable with these two. To tell the dishes apart, elder brother Little Phoenix eats from red, and younger sister Little Flame eats from blue. They lose all patience and go at it. I plate the rest, fill a bowl of rice, and sit down in the dragon scale pavilion. Mountains and water in front of me, birdsong in my ears, good food in my mouth, and a light wind moving the leaves. There are worse ways to be 12. After lunch, I tidy up and do body refining to help it settle. The panel reads Kang Ran, prodigy currently equipped, lifespan 12 of 104. Comprehension ability sits at 110, with a bonus of 20 and spiritual root wood at 30. Cultivation shows body refining 5th layer at 23%, with chi refining layer 1 at 78%. Body refining is getting harder every single time. I am soaked through, and I push my wet hair back and feel the ache settle into everything. Steam is visibly coming off me and every breath radiates heat outward. Once I have calmed down a little, I take out my brand new 2-piece set, apply both talismans and feel human again. Then I see the hour, close up, lock the formation and head for the spirit medicine garden. Somebody greets me on arrival and tells me I have worked hard. The afternoon runs out fast and the sun is dropping west by the time my work is finished, and I am standing around talking with Seo Jobok. I tell him it is fine, that it is not as easy as it used to be but still manageable. He picks a handful of fruit off a nearby ice spirit tree and hands me half, then eats one immediately with the juice running everywhere. It is ice cold and sweet enough to revive a corpse, and only then does he pick the conversation back up. He says the cursed spirit-devouring insects have not stayed quiet for a few years and are back again. He says our human race needs spiritual veins to farm and to cultivate, and those things target our spirit plants to eat, and that it is truly detestable. When a man as mild as Seo Jobok starts cursing out loud, you understand what you are dealing with. Spirit-devouring insects are translucent creatures with extremely high spiritual energy content, surviving on spirit plants and decaying flesh, and carrying one unique and infuriating ability, which is that they travel through spiritual veins. They are effectively everywhere. Because their spiritual energy content is so high, they turn completely transparent when still, matching themselves to the surrounding energy. That leaves almost no method capable of locating them. Cultivators are intimately familiar with spiritual energy, and these things camouflage themselves as the exact thing cultivators know best. In an environment saturated with energy, even the most sensitive cultivator cannot tell whether one is sitting a hand's width away. Held still, they reduce their life fluctuations to nearly nothing, which makes every spell and spiritual eye built to detect living things useless. They are at least weak and stupid. A mortal child stepping on one bursts it into a ball of spiritual energy that disperses into the world without leaving a corpse. The spirit plants are what suffer, since most of them are entirely defenseless and can only be chewed on. Every appearance of these insects is the worst season of a spirit plant cultivator's year, and if you cannot find them, staring until your eyes ache accomplishes nothing. Spirit plant cultivation is considered one of the lowest tier professions in the immortal realm, and yet between the various miraculous methods available, the work is easier and the yield better than any mortal farmer's. Spirit-devouring insects are where it falls apart, and an inexperienced cultivator can lose half a harvest without ever knowing why. I take a calm bite of ice spirit fruit and watch him rant, unable to empathize even slightly. In my eyes, those insects carry the words spirit-devouring insect in large clear letters over their bodies. They are so obvious it takes effort not to see them. I have quietly been clearing them out of the spirit medicine garden for a while now, and Seo Jobok and the others have no idea. Lim Baekun comes walking over from the other side, and I suggest we stop dwelling on unhappy things and practice the wood manipulation spell instead. He asks immediately whether it is single vine or double vine, and I say double vine. He says good, ambitious, exactly what he expects of junior brother Kang, who still carries that aura after 18 straight losses. I tell him I feel like he is making fun of me. He asks how that could be, and insists he is genuinely praising me. We walk to the training ground together, and I pull 2 round short-handled paddles out of my storage pouch, followed by several small plastic-like balls, which is to say the training exercise in question is table tennis. We take our positions at the table I built, both of us calm-faced and both of us full of fighting spirit. A gentle breeze goes through and stirs a few leaves. It genuinely feels like a decisive duel at the Forbidden Peak. Lim Bacon walks over with a basket, sits down on the spectator stand, which is a wooden stake, and settles in. The basket has spirit fruits and towels in it. The 3 of us have done this often enough that nobody finds any part of it strange. She asks whether we are both ready, then starts us. On the word, both of us throw hand seals and condense a spell seed in the palm, then plant it in the soil in front of us, where it starts growing fast. Lim Bacon throws 4 paddles into the air at exactly the right moment, and the vines surge towards them at speed. The contest at this stage is over who reaches a paddle first, since that decides the first move. All 4 vines close almost simultaneously, and to a cultivator's eye the difference in speed is still readable. I get there a step ahead. That is purely because half a year of practice finally paid off, and the wood manipulation spell has upgraded. It now reads minor achievement, with branch abilities consumption reduced by 20% and growth speed up by 50%. That growth speed is what lets me catch a man who has been doing this for 20 years and take the paddle first. He says my casting speed keeps getting faster and that I have taken the first move 3 times running. I point out that taking the first move has not stopped me losing to him every single time. Then we start properly. 2 vines wrapped around 2 paddles, whipping through the air hard enough to make wind, the ball reduced to a smear. Neither of us dares relax for a second. A mortal watching would have lost the trajectory long ago. Neither of us is actually playing, which is the exhausting part. Our hands are constantly reshaping seals to find angles and attack and defend through an intermediary, and it costs more in body and mind than swinging a paddle ever would. We are both soaked before long. The stalemate breaks and the points start coming in runs for both sides. In the end, 20 years of the wood manipulation spell tells. His microcontrol is stronger, his endurance is better, and he takes it on a narrow margin. 19 straight losses. I pack up my things slightly out of breath and entirely alone about it. Across the way, Lim Bacon already has a handkerchief and spiritual spring water ready. Seo Jobok is used to this by now, drinks the water in long pulls, and lets senior sister Lim carefully wipe the sweat off him. He refused the first few times. After that, he stopped bothering. He tells me I am getting more formidable and that a few more days of practice might get me a win. I tell him he is joking, that reaching his realm would take me years yet, and ask him to keep guiding me. He agrees readily and does not notice Lim Bacon behind him giving me a thumbs up over his shoulder while she works. That is also part of the strategy for helping senior sister Lim pursue senior brother Seo. 19 losses is a small price. Once we have rested, I invite them both to my place for dinner, and mention I am planning a new style of gathering. They say in unison that it is worth looking forward to, and there is no problem. I tell them I will go ask old Lim whether he wants to come, then greet them both and hurry off toward the main pavilion. Behind me, Lim Bacon notes that her father seems to like Little Ran more and more, and that he asks her from time to time whether he came today and whether he is coming tomorrow. Seo Jobok says junior brother Kang is quick and clever, so it is natural that Master favors him deeply. Then he asks whether she knows why Master never took junior brother Kang as a disciple. She shakes her head and says she has no idea, and that things are not bad as they are. I know the road well enough to arrive in one breath, and I do not even have to knock, because the door opens by itself. I ask old Lim whether he heard what I just said. He says he heard, and that this old man will not go so as not to disturb our pleasant gathering. I am thoroughly used to this, since I have invited him before and he has always refused with exactly that reason. But I did not walk all the way up here for something that small, and I have ulterior motives. He tells me that if there is nothing else I should go, already working on getting rid of me. Except I have had his number for a while, and the fact that he let me in at all means the door is still open. I tell him I was only worried old Lim would be bored alone, so I came to have a few drinks with him. He calls me a brat and says I am simply coveting his few ounces of tea, puffing out his beard and glaring. It would be more convincing if he were not already waving a hand to summon the tea set and starting to brew. I laugh, walk around to the other side, and sit cross-legged on the cushion. My mind, meanwhile, keeps working. Old Lim is exactly like an old man from the mortal world. He acts profound, and underneath it, he simply has nobody to sit with. From our first meeting, I could tell Lim Jizun talks a great deal and enjoys it. Once I started working the spirit medicine garden, I was very well behaved about it. And then he began planting blood spirit rice, and the two of us started gathering constantly to compare effects. Later that moved to the pavilion, tea and conversation, and over time it simply became the arrangement. He is a lonely old man. His cultivation is strong enough that his disciples do not dare be casual in front of him, and the various peak masters are busy people who do not gather without a reason. That leaves him up here drinking tea, looking at the same familiar view, remembering things. All of that is my speculation. I am fairly confident it is close to exact. So whenever I have nothing pressing, I come drink and talk, mostly to keep him company. The tea is also excellent, and the secrets of the cultivation world that fall out of these conversations are worth the walk on their own. He says the usual, clear heart tea, and pours himself a cup before pushing the entire pot across to me. Out on the balcony there are towering spiritual bamboos for decoration. An old man and a boy, drinking together and talking, the elder sipping slowly and without hurry, the younger draining the pot like a man in a race. I thank old Lim for making this possible, close my eyes, and go inward to comprehend. After a pot of that tea, my mind goes clear and my nature opens, and insights into the evergreen art come pouring in. I cannot say whether I comprehended it myself or the system helped. The operating route of the evergreen art starts changing on its own, and every cycle it runs, my cultivation speed climbs another fraction. Beside me, Lim Ji-sung murmurs about what comprehension ability this is, to optimize a cultivation technique all the way to earth grade. He has had his spiritual sense wrapped around me since the moment I started, afraid I would do something reckless and irreversible. A cultivation technique is the foundation of a person's Tao, and optimizing one is not a small undertaking, since a single wrong step can sever the road to immortality outright. What actually happens is that the optimization completes cleanly, and the improved evergreen art immediately starts driving a breakthrough. He withdraws his spiritual sense, works the pavilion's formation, and raises a small one around me to seal out external sound. A breakthrough belongs in a quiet room, which offers formation enhancements, freedom from disturbance, and richer spiritual energy. An opportunity like this cannot be postponed for the sake of a better room, so he does what he can. For me, the pavilion's concentration, equivalent to high-grade second tier, is more than sufficient, since I am only going to the second layer of chi refining. The technique inside me circulates faster and faster, dragging the surrounding spiritual energy toward my body. Through inner vision, I watch countless verdant lights pour in, pulled along by the great heavenly circulation of my magical power, and growing stronger as they come. My meridians ache faintly, and then, as the incoming spiritual power integrates into them, they widen and toughen until more magical power can pass through at once. When it reaches a certain point, the circulation slows, which is the breakthrough announcing that it is finished. Chi refining layer 2. Success. I consolidate, open my eyes, and for one flash the past comes up in front of me. At 8, at the end of the year, receiving techniques from Dr. Shim, then cultivating the technique diligently on the same day, gaining the system's help, acquiring a spiritual root, and cultivating magical power. At 9, using first-tier early-stage monster beast meat to force my way into the world of cultivation as a chi-refining layer 1 cultivator, then crawling forward because the mortal world had no spiritual energy to spare. At 11, passing the spirit testing assembly, joining the carefree sect, getting an immortal cave with a spiritual vein under it, and cultivating every day until my meridians hurt. At 13, 2 years into the sect, with friends, with famous masters, with opportunity, finally comprehending the Tao. I am overjoyed, and I make no attempt to hide it. Lim Ji-sung says that although I have a low-grade spiritual root, I am not far off a medium-grade one. He adds that with my comprehension ability, the optimized technique, and this piece of fortune, it took me only 2 years to reach the second layer of chi refining. In terms of time, he says, that is comparable to some excellent medium-grade spiritual roots. He removes the formation as he says it, since the entire breakthrough took less than a quarter hour. I tell him it was his good tea, and that without it I have no idea how long it would have taken. Then I point out that today is a good day, a breakthrough, the second step on the path, my first realm breakthrough. So will old Lim not grace us and celebrate at my place? He gave me enormous help and I repay what I am given. So a meal is nothing. Mostly it is that he seems alone, and it is pitiful to watch. My guess is that what he actually wants is somebody to sit and drink tea and talk with him, without weighing his cultivation or his rank. Plain equal conversation. And so far I am the only person who does it. Getting old Lim to the table matters. Good food is one of the most reliable ways to close a distance. Also, if you ask me, old Lim is nowhere near down to earth enough, and I have not forgotten how profound he arranged himself the first time we met. Which is precisely why I push the invitation as hard as I do, and after enough persuasion he finally nods. I tell him I will be waiting at the Waterwood Immortal Cave, that I still need to prepare ingredients so I am leaving first, and that he absolutely must come. Then I bolt before he can reconsider, my voice trailing off down the mountain behind me. He watches me tear away, shakes his head, laughs and drinks off the tea in his hand in a single swallow. He says he does not know how long it has been since he last ate a meal with anyone. Then he looks up at the setting sun, remembering things, with something like anticipation in it. In the evening, I am working ingredients in the kitchen beside the Dragon Scale Pavilion. Somi got the message and came back early to help, and brought her master's whole family with her. She calls out that the Dragon Scale Pavilion is set up, and I tell her to help me process this while I make the hot pot base, and she says she has it. A girl with 2 hair buns pops up at my elbow and asks loudly whether little brother Kang needs help. Absolutely not. I tell her no thank you, and suggest little Young go play, because the last time she helped, she turned the entire kitchen upside down. This is Kusu's daughter, Ku Young, and she and Somi are good playmates and probably best friends. My original plan had Lim Baekun and Somi becoming close friends, and the age gap turned out to be too wide, so they became sisters instead. Ku Young is close to Somi's age, and Somi is good-natured and easy to be around, so the two of them drifted into best friends on their own, which counts as a happy accident. She says fine in a small disappointed voice and wanders out. On the shore, she finds her parents leaning against each other admiring the lake, wrinkles her nose at them, and runs off to play with the two birds instead. Little Phoenix and Little Flame appear to like her a great deal, and she is soon laughing helplessly. Han Dong-seon comes through and announces he is putting the wine down here. I tell him to take a seat and I will be ready shortly. He says he will watch for a bit, because hot pot is a novel way to eat and he is looking forward to his encounter with it. I smile and keep working. Then the last party arrives. Lim Baekgun coming in behind Seo Jobok, while supporting her elderly father, the three of them approaching with considerable grace. Lim Ji-sung pats her arm and tells her to let go, that it does not look right if others see. The pat lands closer to a caress, which gives him away completely. She says she is his daughter, so what is there to be afraid of? And instead of letting go, she smiles wider. Little Ran was right, is what goes through her head. In Lim Baekgun's memory, her father has always been towering and capable of anything. Between the gap in cultivation and the unwritten rules of the immortal realm, reverence slowly crowded out closeness as she grew. Only recently has she realized he might be longing for someone to be spoiled at him the way she once was. After my enlightening and my demonstration, a woman as adaptable as she is knows exactly what to do with that, so she has been taking the opportunity to be a girl at him again. His arrival causes no stir at all, because I gave everyone advance warning. Ku-soo and his wife, admiring the lake, greet him as Peak Master Lim and remark that it has been a long time, and fall into conversation. Han Gongsun comes over and formally announces himself as disciple Han Gongsun greeting Peak Master Lim, because the appropriate courtesy still has to be paid. Old Lim tells everyone not to be strangers, that there is no Peak Master Lim here, only an old man freeloading a meal. Seeing that nobody is intimidated and the whole yard is treating him as an equal, Lim Ji-sung understands what his daughter and I arranged. This gathering is private specifically so that everyone can set their concerns down and attend as people who came to eat. He gets more talkative as the evening goes. At the Dragon Scale Pavilion, he settles in with Lim Baekgun beside him, Ku-soo and his wife and Han Gongsun seated by invitation. The group drinks tea and talks, with old Lim doing most of the talking and everybody else tacitly listening hard. A casual conversation with a foundation establishment cultivator tends to contain remarks worth chewing on for years, which makes it a serious opportunity in its own right. Seo Joba comes into the kitchen and starts pulling things out of his storage pouch, announcing that all the spiritual vegetables I asked for are here. Then he asks how exactly one eats this hot pot, and why it needs so many ingredients, and says he is getting more curious by the minute. I have just finished the base, so once the ingredients are prepped we can start, and I tell him not to worry, it will be ready shortly. Then I send the spiritual vegetables up into the air and onto the cutting board, and my knife goes to work. Everything gets cut down into uniform sections and slices, which fly off onto the waiting plates and arrange themselves into presentable platters, all driven by the object guiding spell. I do not pass up a chance to practice a skill. Ever. I call for Somi to bring out the hot pot base, tell her we can start and she should demonstrate first, and to bring the wine too. She says okay. The little girl has finished her work and changed into a dress, 12 years old now, full of an unguarded brightness, and getting more beautiful every month. She floats the base and the ingredients out to the group, and settles the pot into the recessed tabletop I had built for it, then explains. Hot pot means putting whatever you want to eat into the pot, and once it is cooked you take it out and eat it, and that is the entire method. This one is a 3 talents pot with spicy, tomato, and clear broth sections, so everybody's taste gets satisfied at once. All the bases are stewed from black boar bones and are rich and fragrant, and if it runs low we simply add more. Then she demonstrates. She picks up a slice of meat, dips it into the clear broth, pulls it out fast, drops it in her favorite sauce dish, and puts it in her mouth. It is evidently too much at once, because she cannot speak at all. She just makes an enthusiastic noise and gives everyone a thumbs up. The whole table cracks up and starts imitating her. From there, it is a new experience for every person present, tasting this and that, trying different broths and different sauces, calling out discoveries as they find them. When I finish the prep, I come out and join in. Eating is convenient for cultivators, since nobody has to stand up for anything. Lim Ji-sung does not move at all. Plants grow up around him and envelop the pavilion, and their broad leaves carry ingredients and plates, and when he wants something he waves a hand and it delivers itself. When a broth or a platter runs out, one object guiding spell floats the next round over from the kitchen. The evening breeze cannot disperse the smell of the hot pot, and it cannot disperse the noise either. Everyone is smiling, everyone is eating, everyone is toasting somebody. Every worry gets set down, and for tonight nobody outranks anybody, because we are all just people at a table. This is what hot pot is actually for. Loud, and talking about nothing. It runs until 10 before it breaks up, and everyone goes home full. Afterward, I clean up, go back to my room and open my panel to look at what today did. Spiritual root, wood at 35. Cultivation, Chi refining layer 2 at 0%. Cultivation technique, evergreen art at perfection. Mana quality profound. Cultivation speed up 50%. Recovery speed up 50%. And total mana up 50%. And total mana up 50%. And total mana up 50%. The technique reached perfection, and the first thing that happened is my spiritual root went up again, another 5 points. By my calculations, a medium-grade spiritual root sits around 40, which means I am very close. After that came the cultivation speed increase, and between it and the earlier gains to total mana and recovery speed, the technique tipped over into Earth grade. Under identical conditions, both the quality of the mana I cultivate and the speed I cultivate it get a boost. It still reads profound grade because the promotion just happened and I need time to cultivate into it. None of that is the real prize. The real prize is automatic cultivation. According to the description, from now on I am freed from cultivating because the technique runs on its own and cultivates at all times. As far as I know, the spiritual root sets both how many hours a day a person can cultivate and how much spiritual energy they draw in a given stretch. A higher rank therefore means both more hours and faster progress. Even a high-grade spiritual root like Somi's cannot cultivate around the clock. Perhaps a legendary earthly or heavenly spiritual root could, though I have never found a scrap of information about either. Now I can run continuously all day, and even if I draw less energy per hour than a high-grade spiritual root, I make it back on hours. With this, I do not need to change my cultivation technique anytime soon, which settles a question I had been sitting on. In my first year, I looked into it and found that the highest ranked technique in the Carefree sect is the legacy technique that guards the sect, the Azure Wood Reversion Art. That one is Earth grade and famous even across the East Sea. Heaven grade techniques are only rumored to exist in the East Sea's single nascent soul power, the Nine Yang sect. Earth grade is enough to serve as the legacy technique of a golden core power, which is exactly why the three sects have carried their legacies for thousands of years. As a branch of the Azure Wood sect, one of those three, the Carefree sect naturally receives its support. Unfortunately, the Azure Wood Reversion Art is restricted to core disciples of the main peak. Later, once I had access to the special contribution channel, I found that spending my rank 2 exchange token would let me trade contribution points for it after all. Comparing it against my own situation, it is not worth it. It took me nearly 3 years to grind the evergreen art to major achievement, and with the bar past halfway and perfection in sight, the sunk cost is enormous. Boosted, the evergreen art's attributes are usable as an earth grade technique in everything but a slightly lower cultivation speed. Sharpening the knife does not delay the wood cutting, as the saying goes, provided you can actually sharpen it into a good knife. If a heaven grade technique were sitting in front of me, I would switch without a second thought. For another earth grade technique, I would spend the time switching and then several more years grinding back to where I already am. What I need is to get stronger fast, because if I die during my own development, there is no later to plan for. Besides which, the technique was about to reach perfection and I had no idea what ability that would grant. And abilities granted at perfection are generally powerful. Breeding out of farming is the standing example, so I decided to wait and see. If the perfection ability satisfied me, I would keep the evergreen art all the way to foundation establishment, and perhaps by then something better would find me anyway. It satisfies me enormously. 3 hours of cultivation every night, freed up for other things, and my cultivation speed goes up on top of it. Seeing the hour, I lie down and sleep, and wake at 5 sharp the next morning. Morning exercise still does not get skipped, except now the technique keeps running inside me while I do it, which is a genuinely novel sensation. The rest of the day holds its shape. Farm work, then the spirit medicine garden, then the wood manipulation spell with senior brother Seo, then tea with Old Lim. Old Lim opens with the observation that Han Gongson is not simple. I make a confused noise, then a second one. He says that during yesterday's conversation, many of Han Gongson's insights were nothing like what a chi refining cultivator should possess. I ask what Old Lim means by that. He says, what could this old man possibly mean? That it is simply a reminder for me. Everyone has secrets, more or less, he says. Like me, and like him. Then he sips his tea and adds that only those of us carrying secrets understand the feeling of walking on thin ice. The reason he is still here is thanks to Carefree, he says, and because of Carefree, he remains here. He is telling me to be careful with people. I hear it. I thank him for the reminder, and say that after all this time, Big Brother Han and I get along very well. He says it does not matter, that as long as I am still on Spirit Plant Peak, I have nothing to worry about. I thank him again. After that gathering, everyone is closer, and the get-togethers keep happening. Life is peaceful and interesting at the same time, which is not a combination I expected to get. On this particular day, I am drawing talismans. My hand holds the brush steady, my expression is exact, my mind does not wander. The tip moves slowly and without hesitation, horizontal, vertical, lifting, pausing. The one constant is that I never lift the brush off the paper, because a talisman has to be drawn in a single unbroken pass. At the very end, I feel my mana about to give out, and I swallow the chi restoration pill already in my mouth. My nearly empty dantian gains a few points back. One last push and it is done. A Tier 1 high-grade spirit talisman, the sound transmission talisman. By the rules of the cultivation world, I can now barely be called a Tier 1 high-grade talisman master, which is a classification I do not actually agree with. In practice, the only Tier 1 high-grade talisman I know how to draw is that one, and if somebody asked for anything else, I could only spread my hands. To my mind, a Tier 1 high-grade talisman master should at minimum handle the mainstream set: attack, defense, escape, concealment, and healing. Being able to draw high-grade talismans across all of those is what would actually earn the title. If a man hears you are a Tier 1 high-grade talisman master, comes to buy an attack talisman, and is told you cannot make one, what exactly is he standing in front of? The panel reads talisman drawing at Tier 1 minor achievement, with the branch ability success rate plus 5%. Success rate is far and away the most common thing these skills hand out, and it has absolutely no presence to it, which is why I ignored it for a long time. Then, one talisman session showed me what it does. My mana input slipped slightly in a way that should have ruined the draw, and instead, as though something whispered to me, my hand lifted and pressed on its own and the stroke continued. The talisman completed itself. So that is how a success rate is spent. Thinking back over all the tools and furniture I have made, nothing like that ever happened once. Presumably this was the first time it ever triggered, because the odds are simply that low. The next day I hand the finished sound transmission talisman to Somi and tell her she can reach me with it if anything happens. These talismans are one-use items unless an artifact refiner produces a talisman treasure first, since only then can a talisman master engrave one into it and get repeat use. The sound transmission talisman is a high-grade first-tier legacy with a generous range, and practically everyone holds the legacy, so the price stays low at around 50 spirit stones a sheet. That is what a medium-grade first-tier talisman costs. For me, it is still very expensive. Put bluntly, this thing is chat software, except it is nothing like chat software. It has a hard range, and a high-grade first tier 1 covers the carefree sect and perhaps a little past the border. It carries exactly one message per use. A back-and-forth conversation is 100 spirit stones gone, which is an inner sect disciple's monthly stipend for 2 sentences. That is the selling price, though, not the cost. A stack of 50 first-tier talisman papers runs about 10 spirit stones and takes medium-grade or low-grade work. High-quality first-tier paper, which takes high-grade or top-grade talismans, costs 5 spirit stones a sheet. So a sound transmission talisman that sells for 50 can be produced for about 5 at full capacity. Spirit ink and spirit brushes are reusable, and the average cost of them vanishes once the volume climbs. A 10-fold margin. On paper, that is the ideal state, and it ignores time, energy, learning, and the trial and error. More to the point, it ignores that the draw does not always succeed. Most talisman masters can make a living once their success rate passes 30%, and an excellent one hitting 80% is already impressive. That is my read as a high-grade first-tier talisman master, and it says nothing about the more advanced ones, which is why sound transmission talismans are mostly reserved for emergencies, and everybody else uses carrier pigeons. Bird spirit beasts are extremely popular in this world for exactly that reason. Little Phoenix and Little Flame are still growing, and in another year or two, once their flying speed comes up, they can start taking message delivery work. It is a shame the carefree sect does not hold the legacy that comes after this one. Even high-grade first-tier talisman legacy is rare here, so I should shift my weight onto alchemy instead, since that is the carefree sect's foundational legacy. Today I will go buy more chi-gathering elixir materials. I act on the thought, handle the morning's business, and go out and buy 50 portions for 1,500 contribution points. Medicinal materials have been climbing lately. They used to run 30 contribution points a portion with a discount for buying from Spirit Pill Peak, and now they are at 35. Fortunately, I have acquaintances on Spirit Plant Peak, and one man in my small group runs a sect mission the way I used to. He's accumulated medicinal materials over the years and sells them to me at a discount, and I have promised him a very good meal when the time comes. Is it because I bought the Immortal Cave? No, that makes no sense. Nothing moves that fast. I only just bought the place, and even on the original schedule, it would not yet be time for me to harvest, so the price has nothing to do with me. Then it hits me, the spirit-devouring insects. I think back to clearing them out of the spirit medicine garden for senior brother Seo. A man as experienced and mild as he is was swearing without pause about it. If it drove him to that, this insect plague must be serious. Thank the heavens for the system.